rush out in there. This is the Englishman, Watson, on the front. Yeah, and he's got to find the sprint as well. Watson, we know that. He wins the... Oh, can we call that the bunch, Brian? I think we should call that the bunch. Yeah, the second group, biggest group on the road we've seen so far. Right, there we go. What a turn up. Remy Capron, who was in that leading group yesterday, so he'll finish high on GC as well. Capron was 5th on GC going into today, 38 seconds down. He'll tick up a 10-second bonus. That will take him up into second. Where did Aldani finish, though? That's the only thing, Brian. But that should take him up to second. There we go. So he'll move up to second on GC with that ride. Great ride by a guy who's obviously climbing well and definitely packs more of a final finishing punch than I knew. Brilliant.
Yeah, he doesn't look a punchy rider, looks more like a climber, but at the end of the day, so he had enough energy left. It's kind of difficult to see when they come into that last corner there. There was a bit of coming together, and some riders had to kind of ease it. We're seeing it here again. Things just moving over, small coming together, but clearly Aldani just never had the legs there in the end. Slightly uphill finish, looking down. Archie Ryan gained distance as well, but at the same time here you get Brule Arch here for San Michel, just kind of hanging on to third place there with the Doningworth, the rider we're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
Mollard's taking 4th, so he doesn't get any bonuses either.
All French top 4 as well. Remy Capron gets his first professional victory in the dark pink of Van Rysel Roubaix.
Tom across the line there as if he's been practicing it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he knew it was coming. Maybe he had. What a fantastic moment. Another great moment for that high-performing third division team as well. They're always good value for money, whether it's in the breakaways or the attacking and upsetting the apple cart as they've done today in amongst World Tour talent, even in that final leading group. I think you're right though, Brian. He was maybe helped by making sure he started his sprint early, because it was quite a steppy speed bump with what... It was inside the final K, that speed bump, wasn't it, as they went around that final little bend. So, not the easiest of run-ins. Let's have a look at this last K, shall we, Smithy?
But just waiting, I don't know what Hermans was trying to talk to Aldani about. It's just as it kind of opened up and we get Movistar kind of stretching things out. And at this stage, you thought Aldani second place here, he's looking good. And you know, on the wheel you've got Mollard, but you know, just looking where the wind came from, he was a little bit kind of further back. He just comes up in the right hand side there, round the outside, and hit the front pretty much at the right time. And you have to say that sprint he did there was super strong. I know Doningworth came through to nip in second. He was the fastest over the last kind of 50 metres there, but that finish there from Capron was super strong at the end of the day.
Also, Brian, you mentioned about him potentially having practiced a celebration. He didn't look surprised, did he? So I think he knows he's got that sprint under the bonnet. There he is as our winner of the final stage, and right up to second place, I think, on GC. We'll confirm that. Tom Doningworth, the breakthrough rider of these last 3 days, certainly on our side of things, with a brilliant second place there, so close. 4 Frenchmen, Brouillard, Mollard making up that top 4, then Aldani, the Italian, in 5th place. And that is a lovely shot looking down the Lan River, which has been the focal point of this final stage of the Tour de France today. And there we are. So Remy Capron moving right up to second place with that win today, behind Jefferson Cepeda, who takes the win. The Ecuadorian winning this, the 36th edition of the Tour de France, and Aldani moving up to 3rd. Victor Lafay, as we pointed out, was in that group in 7th.
glance back over the shoulder. Brody Chapman makes a move. The court tries to get on. Fisher Black was moving up. Becky right on it. Has a glance back over the shoulder. He's got just lining up from the back of the group here. So it looks like the next 40 kilometres or so, this is going to be the pattern. Riders that are further down on the general classification are going to look to try and get away.
Now, what I'm looking at here is how many riders from ST Works Pro Time remain in this group. Of course, there's Lotte Kopecky, and there is Lee Fisher Black, rider number 3, who you can see there towards the front of this group. And I'm comparing how many teammates Longo Borghini has got compared to how many teammates Lotte Kopecky has got. Of course, we do have a number of teams represented here, but a lot of those riders not making this group due to how brutal the climbs were. But certainly two teammates still remain for Longo Borghini.
Guy Realini and Brody Chapman still in there, so your group. Antonia Niedermeyer, Lotte Kopecky along the front, Paulina Roackers, Lorraine Meyering, Silke Schmolders, Elisa Longo Borghini, Lee Fisher Black, all along the second row, this second bunch here, trying to come back. There's our Queen of the Mountain, Justina Pera. We saw Oscar Laza is also in there. Sanne Kantz on the back here for the Fenix de Koenig team. Having a great day out, the Belgian. And it's worth pointing out that in this race, we've never had a Belgian rider on the podium in the women's Giro. The last time that Italy won this race was 2008 with Fabiana Luperini, but first, second or third today on GC, Lotte Kopecky makes history for Belgium.
She certainly does, so that's huge news, and Lotte Kopecky has been making history for a while now in her career with the amount of things that she's won, but in terms of the Giro d'Italia women, like you say, it's an event that Belgian women's cycling haven't had a podium in up till now, and of course it's the superstar, it's the reigning world road race champion that we're looking at to make a chase of that today. And, you know, as things stand, she should touch wood be on the podium either way. But she is definitely going for that win. And she gave an interview after the race yesterday. She referred to it as just a stupid second. And I thought it was really interesting the language that she chose to use there, and I guess just the frustration that it's such a tiny time gap that separates the two. But even more of a treat for us to get to watch it.
Indeed. So 1,520 metres above sea level is your Palacio here. Getting a great glimpse all around the historic part of the world that we are in. Who will make history today? Will it be Lotte Kopecky taking the general classification for Belgium? Her own bit of history, you would say, for Elisa Longo Borghini, or Lidl Trek, rider that has been one of the top riders in the world for well over a decade now, at the top level in the classics, in the stage races. Has never won the Giro, finishing second in the past. Our group getting whipped down by the climbs and the descents, given the pressure that is being exerted over the front of this one through multiple attacks. You can see there just a touch under 80 kilometres an hour with Juliette Labuse of DSM Firmenich on the front. Anna Ludwig on the back here for Cofidis. You can see Anna Ludwig still in there. Just ahead of her is Grace Brown, wearing 73. Juliette Labuse driving the pace on the front here. So this is, you've got to say, this is advantage SD Works, because Lotte Kopecky, this is a stage finish that really suits Kopecky, but also when we came to the finish on stage 3, Elisa Longo Borghini had the measure of Lotte Kopecky in the uphill sprint there.
She did. I'd say that was a tougher climb to the finish on that stage. But yeah, you're right. Two very closely matched riders. That's why we get to this point in the race with just 1 second separating them. So that's what makes it really exciting. I'm just sort of, I guess, not concerned, but I'm just aware that Lotte Kopecky is sort of covering a lot of moves here. She's only got Neve Fisher-Black as a teammate in this group. There are a lot of different teams here. It's still quite a significantly sized group, and a lot of riders and a lot of teams that, of course, do want to try and take a stage win. And it's not just about the overall; it's about trying to win the bike race today. At the end of the day, so. By that means a lot of riders are attacking. There's riders that are going with them that are too high on GC that you've got to still chase them down. And as things stand, we're moving pretty fast on this fast section of the road. We've got quite a fast descent now for the next few kilometres. But, well, at the moment we're going to have a couple of little tiny kicks up, nothing real significant, still continue descending until we turn onto the main road at 27k to go. So you can see the bunch are all strung out here at the moment. You can see that gap halfway down as well, just showing that a few riders are really struggling to hold the wheels here.
Yes, a lot of pressure on the descent, and Ruth Edwards just trying to go clear here with Franzi Koch, Lisa Longa Borghini. Quite happy with this one. If we can get another couple of riders clear, this is the perfect team scenario for Lidl Trek. Ruth Edwards and Franzi Koch, two strong riders that could go to the finish. Ruth Edwards, already a Giro stage win in her career. Pecky has got Neve Fisher-Black, her teammate, to help her. Kim Lacourt, jumping clear for AG Insurance Sudal. Freedom, you would say, today for Franzi Koch. Our newly crowned German champ. 36.8 to go. Is this going to be a duo? Can they make this one stick? Bit of a gap. Are we going to get anyone trying to come across? That looks like a style of Neve Fisher-Black from the helicopter shot. Does not want to let anything go here. Quite a teammate to have at your service for Lotte Kopecky today.
She certainly is just the one teammate though, like I mentioned, so it does mean potentially a lot of work for Neve Fisher-Black. We're just seeing Kim Lacourt trying to come across here. Her national champion jersey is her. She's making a big effort here to try and get up to this group, clearly realising that these two runners are very good riders to be with to try and take a stage victory today. Kim Lacourt has dropped down the general classification. She was in the top 10 for a while, now at 19th on DC. 2 minutes and 57 seconds as of the end of yesterday. This is one of the little ramps that we've got on this descent. Overall, we are still descending for a while. There are a few little kickers here, a few twists and turns. So the opportunity to jump away from the group if you've got the legs to try and take them. Neve Fisher-Black still the rider on the front at the moment. But oh, not a lot of help here.
Kim Lacourt looked like she gassed herself a little bit in trying to get across that gap. Couldn't come through immediately. Ruth Edwards, as you can imagine, happy to press on with this one, really wants to make this breakaway stick. But Kim Lacourt, that effort, and sometimes that, when you cross that sort of gap at that sort of speed, it just does take you a little while just to recover. Whereas your breakaway companions just want you to work straight away.
Yeah, you're like, all good. And other riders come through and do a turn here, but yeah, sometimes you haven't quite got it. Other times you see riders go across and then go straight past, just sort of go straight over the top of the breakaway if they're coming with a lot of speed. She is now coming through here to do a turn, but Ruth Edwards, clearly the driver of this breakaway group, keen to try and make this stick.
Also showed the other function in this situation with the Shimano neutral service car and the bottles, because they're not just there to give a wheel if a rider needs one. They do the full team service in the background as well.
Yeah, and we're seeing riders, we saw on yesterday's stage going up Blockhouse, taking bottles from other Team Soigneurs as well, and very much everyone out there helping the riders in these extremely hot conditions. Just see the two riders from Canyon SRAM, just sorting the bottles out here. And the ice down the back of the jersey as well.
Yeah, Barbara Malcotti, she's got that ice pack. Just needs to sort of tuck it right down inside your jersey. So much sports science that goes into racing in every way now, isn't there, in terms of the cooling strategies, and right the way through your feeding strategies throughout the race, when you're training, when leading into races as well.
Yeah, so they'll have staff as part of the team looking at that nutrition and hydration strategy for a stage race like this. It will be different among different riders in the peloton how well they'll have been able to prepare for this specifically. In terms of overall in Europe, it's not been particularly hot weather so far this summer, but now we've really been hit with this hot weather in Italy. So it really does show who's been, training in different parts of Europe and who's been sort of exposed to this sort of weather up till now. Very interesting to see on the blockhouse climb yesterday. It looked to me visually like Lotte Kopecky was pouring far more water over herself than Longo Borghini was. Of course, didn't seem to affect her performance because in the end, in the sprint for the line, Kopecky was just ahead of Longo Borghini. But I guess no real surprise there when you think one rider is from Belgium, one rider is from Italy, that Longo Borghini must have looked slightly like she was suffering a little bit less in the heat.
Long straight road, it means that peloton behind can see our breakaway just ahead. So as Joanna said, this is the flattest, full flat, as we would call it, where you can see it just rising very slightly ahead of us.
Yeah, so it can be a grim position to be in as a rider when you've got the road just gradually going up like that. It's the sort of, it's not a climb by any means. We've called it false flat, and it's the sort of thing that you don't really notice at all in the peloton, but you very much notice it if you're in a breakaway going through doing your turns here. And like you mentioned, Marty, with this long straight road, they will have them in their sights, and it's not just the riders in the breakaway, it's the motorbike outriders, the neutral service car, so they'll be very much be able to see exactly where they are, as well as they'll be getting time checks on the race radio, time checks on the blackboard from the motorbikes as well. But this is a tough moment here for the breakaway. They need to commit to this. They took a long time to be able to establish 3 riders to get away. There were a number of attacks, particularly from Ruth Edwards. She was racing very aggressively, as also was Francie Koch trying to get this breakaway going. Kim LaCourte then came across to it. So back up to going towards 40 seconds now. So they have brought out some more time. It did go under that 30-second mark at one point, but still by no means a safe lead at all as we go into a lumpy final 5K of racing.
Yeah, we've got 3 against 1 here in terms of the 3 riders on the front here, pretty much against the Fisher Black in that group behind. Valieras just on the back here for EFO to Cannondale. The team cars are constantly just coming up. You can hear the chat between Hannah Ludwig and her Cofidis team car, just grabbing an ice pack. They're just being constantly replenished. Neil is her director sporty in the car. Hannah Ludwig, one of the riders this season, who's had a win for the team of Cofidis. You're of course with us for the Navarra Classic down in Spain. You'll remember an absolutely thrilling finish with Hannah Ludwig going solo and managing to take that one all the way to the finish. So great to see her getting her first big real pro win, you would say. And that's race in Navarra. The Fisher Black just keeping this rhythm, keeping the tempo. Los Aragos, her teammate, right on the wheel. For Kim LaCourte, she's got Queen of the Mountain, Justin Hira, who's just about 4th or 5th in line in that blue jersey as Queen of the Mountains. All of our categorised climbs are behind us. The AG Insurance Cedar rider now crowned Queen of the Mountains. She's got to get to the finish.
Yeah, so like you said earlier, finish line for her basically at 50k to go at the summit of that first category climb. Just first over the line there, so job done brilliantly. Now, of course, get to the finish and enjoy the fact that she knows she's going to be taking this jersey on the final podium here at the Giro d'Italia Women, and try and enjoy this last 20k or so of racing. As tough as it's going to be in this heat with the kicks up towards the finish, but hopefully she can enjoy it.
Seconds now, as we said, if they give it a break, if they felt they could just squeeze this gap out, 45 seconds, a minute, as we head towards 20 kilometres to go, they'll start to feel that they could take this one all the way to the finish. Cecilia Ludwig seemed like her effervescent self on her pre-race interview. It was good to hear from her earlier.
Yes, it certainly was. Always good to hear from Cecilia Ludwig. Looking forward to seeing if the FDJ Suez team do try anything in the closing stages here. They have been close. They were very close on stage 1 with Grace Brown in that opening time trial. So we've got 3 riders in this group from FDJ Suez. I have seen Los Adagast and Grace Brown towards the back as well. Here is Cecily Ludwig, who is of course a superstar of the sport, real fan favourite as well, and a rider that likes to race aggressively, returning from a bad crash earlier this season, back in February sort of time, but yeah, very much getting back to full strength, and we always enjoy watching her race.
We do, and as we go through 20 kilometres to go here, it's, you know, when you see a rider go through a major injury like that, fractured sacrum, a long time off the bike, and as a rider coming back, you know, you're starting from such a point from where you would have come into the season to rebuild where you are to the point where she is here.
Yeah, and it makes a difference, I guess, in terms of how long you've been a pro for, how long you've been training. The younger that you are, the less years of training you've got in your legs, that time off becomes a bigger percentage of your training history, essentially. But she's now 28 years old, Cecilia Ludwig. She's been part of the pro peloton for many years. I often still think of her as a young rider. Maybe that's just her personality and the way she gives those really sort of exciting, youthful style interviews in many ways. But yeah, it wouldn't have been as much of a percentage of her training history as it would have been obviously a few years ago or for a younger rider. So there is that underlying endurance, all those miles in the legs from many years of racing a bike. But there's also the confidence that comes from racing your bike in the peloton, and you know, you can't replicate that in training, you can't replicate that on a turbo trainer, and sometimes it does take a while to really just get those racing miles in the legs and get used to the feel of being back in the peloton.
Pecky hand up in the bunch behind. It's always that opportunity as well. Just drop back, have a word with the director sportive in the car, have a little chat about the tactics. And for her, because SD works her down to 2, she also has got to do the job of going back to the car herself here, because she needs to leave Neve on the front, setting that rhythm.
Yeah, so I'm assuming Kopecky would have been hoping to have had another teammate or 2 in this group in an ideal scenario, but it is just Neve Fisher-Black here. So she's the runner that's been on the front, trying to control the gap for this breakaway, but it's now up to 55 seconds, so very much going the way of the breakaway. But we are on this section of road, which will be ever so slightly downhill, so that's sort of a faster section. We do have some real proper flat coming up before our 2 kicks to the finish, but Kopecky just waiting for the team car here. Waiting to have a word with the DS, or get a bottle, or probably both, and work out how they play things now in the final 18k of this race. You can see this bunch is all strung out though. This is the effort that is going in on the front to try and maintain this gap. But like you say, Marty, it is 3 versus 1 at the moment. We are now just seeing the SD Works Pro Time car coming up, and Ice, first thing on the menu there, down the back of the jersey.
And what she'll also be looking here, she's got to keep Neve hydrated and cool as well.
Yeah, she certainly has. So she's playing the role of team leader and team domestique for her domestique. So there she is, plenty of bottles up the jersey. And of course, she's such an experienced rider, Kopecky. No problem for her at all. Just easing her way around this group to find her teammate.
And there's a lot of focus on the Hulk sticker that she's got on her top tube, on her bike as well.
Yeah, we focus in on those shots yesterday, and she also had every sort of gradient of the blockhouse climb itemised on the stem as well, knowing exactly what was coming where. And she even had the very small amount of flat section on yesterday's route highlighted, so that was amusing to see. But you can see her just easily working her way past these riders, still getting some shelter, getting low on the bike here on this section of the road that's going ever so slightly downhill.
And that's how you get back up to the front using as little amount of energy as possible.
It certainly is. So showing all her experience, they're just easing past everybody, putting out as minimal watts as possible.
And there you have it. So the rider that's chasing Amalia Rosa, she's second on general classification. She's got 1 teammate here in New Zealand, and Neve Fisher-Black. Ice pack for Neve. So Neve just sticks that in her jersey to keep her cool. Lotte Kopecky back to the team car, and you just see there that the Lidl Trek riders coming up with a gap from our breakaway. 1 minute and 6 seconds here with 16.3 to go. Lotte Kopecky just keeping cool, constantly spraying the water over herself. If you haven't been with us for for the first 8 stages, the first 7 days of this race, it has been ferociously hot. So the mercury has been nudging about just around the 40 degrees Celsius on the days. It's been really, really hot for the riders, and not a lot of wind, so not a lot of breeze to help cool the riders down. We are heading towards our finish in L'Aquila. We have 3 breakaway riders who are now 1 minute and 10 seconds advanced of this group. And we have Ruth Edwards from the USA and Human Powered Health, Kim Lacourt of AG Insurance Sudan, and Franzi Koch from DSM Firmenich Postenau. They're going to need a pretty significant advantage though coming into the final 5k though, aren't they?
Well, I was just about to say, Marty, you called it perfectly a few stages ago when the day when Liana Lippert won, and you said they're going to need about 2.5 minutes at the base of this third category climb if they want to stay away to the finish, and they certainly did, and Liana Lippert took that stage win. So I've just been looking at the finale today and how tough this last 5k is in terms of 2 kicks before the finish. I don't think they're going to need as much as 2.5 minutes at all, but I think, you know, at least a minute, probably working maybe more towards 1.5 minutes, which is exactly what they're doing at the moment. Would you say similar?
Yeah, I think I would feel these 3 would need that advantage if everything kicks off behind. You just want that buffer, don't you? We just saw battery change for the gearing of Ruth Edwards. It looked like Ruth just being breakaway motivator here. 1:14 is the gap. Yeah, I definitely feel that they're going to need to press this one out because we know how quickly a minute can come back on a climb, don't we?
Yeah, as soon as riders start attacking, you know, one goes, one follows, another one counters, that time gap will come tumbling down really, really quickly. So they will want to get as much of a buffer as they can going into this. And with 3 of them working hard together, that is doable. It is, like you say, 3 versus 1. And for Niamh Fisher-Black, who is the domestique in this situation for ST Works Pro Time, of course, previous stage winner, this terrain, this sort of roads that we've got here are not necessarily her forte. You know, she's a superb climber, but she's riding on roads that are, you know, very wide, straight roads in some parts, just ever so slightly downhill. So she's got a work cut out here to try and limit the gains of this breakaway.
She's doing a mighty ride though. This is an absolute, you know, this is a textbook single teammate ride here from the New Zealander on the front. And you got to say, New Zealand, you know, the riders that New Zealand are producing in this generation of riders, there's some real, you know, spectacular talent coming out of New Zealand as well, and Australia with Niamh Bradbury yesterday, Niamh Fisher-Black taking a stage win as well.
Yeah, it's been a good Giro for the riders from down under, like you say. Both Niamhs taking a stage win now, so a good name to have if you want to be a pro cyclist from Australia or New Zealand and come over to race in Europe. So no, it has been a really sort of successful Giro for them in general. And then to we look back, you mentioned yesterday Amanda Spratt being an Aussie rider that's previously won a stage at the Giro d'Italia, and you know, incredibly successful pro rider, really, really long career. Of course, she's part of the Legal Trek squad. So I think having those riders that you can look up to and have those role models in these situations that are making that huge journey over to the other side of the world to live on a different time zone to their friends and family, because they'll of course be living out here in Europe because the racing is so Europe-centred, with the exception of the Tour Down Under right at the start of the season. You have to make that move, go and live in a different country, be with your team, you know, make new friends. It is tough. It's a tough ask, and Grace Brown, another one of the Aussie riders, part of FDJ Suez, announced her retirement earlier this year at the end of this season, and one of the things she cited was how difficult it is spending so much time away from home and friends and family, and you know, she's lived in Europe but will be returning to Australia.
And that's the thing, when you know, when we went through the sort of 2020-21, the pandemic years, Niamh Fisher-Black herself didn't go home for nearly it was almost 2 years, I think she said, a year and 3/4 before she finally got to go home. And I think that's where the team and that family environment that we talk about a lot within a team really, you know, really came into play as well. They really had to look after her in terms of, you know, her well-being and almost take that place.
Yeah, you can't underestimate how much of a difference it makes being in a team that you're happy with. Though, just as I'm talking, now we've got an attack from FDJ Smith. It's gone straight over the top of Neve Fisher-Black, who was on the front there.
Grace Brown going on the attack. We were just talking about Grace Brown. And Jheski Skaliak-Sojka here, going on the chase for the team of Canyon Shram. 11.4 to go, minute 20, so the team managers behind will feel that this is starting to go. Elisa Longo-Borghini and Lotte Kopecky just getting into this group. Brown looks around, but this sort of scenario is also good for the breakaway, because if we start to get these little attacks, when the wind goes out of the sails and everything spreads across the road, it adds another 5-10 seconds to the lead of the break.
Yeah, so the time gap has come down there with the attack of Grace Brown, but it does mean now that she has, been caught by a number of riders, that Neve Fisher-Black isn't on the front anymore, isn't the one rider that able to do the work. She's quite a few riders back now, so you're right, it does disrupt things. Although, having said that, because we have just got one rider working on the front, I think overall this is a good thing for SD Works Program if other teams are keen to try and get up the road, because that time gap will come down, I would say, more so than just with Neve to do that work.
Attack over the top, Los Adargeist is the next rider here for FDJ Suez, so clearly have been given some instructions by the team manager that they need to get away here. They've missed out on this breakaway, and there is a potential that this breakaway could go all the way to the finish. Erska Ziegart on the front for Liverlula Jayco. They're another team that have missed out on this one. Los Adargeist, though, going on the attack here. Good moves, managed to gap the group. Ziegart looks around. Dominika Wodacek, the next rider to go. She flicks her elbow. Neve Fisher-Black, you can see, is quite happy to get a little bit of assistance here for a moment. But Wodacek not able to continue with this one. So can Adargeist here get clear? The pressure goes out of that group behind. Extends that lead for the Dutch rider. So Wodacek swings off, looks round at Neve Fisher-Black. Longo-Borghini in the Maglia Rosa. So this is a good move now for Los Adargeist. She can try and time trial her way up towards the front of the group. So you've got the national champ of Mauritius in here. She's the newly crowned time trial and road race champion of Mauritius for this season. And someone that started on the mountain bike from Mauritius. She won the Cape Epic last year. It's Kim Lecourt. A real talent. That was the attack. Erska Ziegart not quite able to get on her when she went. Lotte Kopecky and Elisa Longo-Borghini on the front. Cecilia Tripp-Ludwig moves up. So needle track. This is a, you would say, perfect scenario for them. 54 seconds is the gap. 10 kilometres to go. This would help the breakaway to get another rider like Adargeist up there. It takes another team out of that chase behind, with FDJ Suez having a rider up there. The Maglia Rosa group of Elisa Longo-Borghini goes through 10 kilometres to go. Queen of the Mountains, Justine Hacheda from AG Insurance Sudal on the back of the group. 1:13 is the gap from our three leaders. 51 seconds to our chaser. Can they stay away, steal that stage victory for Lidl Trek? This is the perfect scenario for them. They then just, Joe, they're just risking that sprint up to the line and knowing what Lotte Kopecky is also capable of in an uphill sprint.
Yeah, they're far better to risk that and believe that Longo-Borghini will be able to match Kopecky pedal stroke in that sprint than they are having a situation where there are bonus seconds available on the line. So like you say, very much playing into the hands of Lidl Trek here at the moment. So exciting for the Italian fans. It's not over yet by any means. Just seeing the Fisher Black come back around now, out the saddle.
Grace Brown and Brodie Chapman just having a bit of a chat on the front of the group. The Fisher Black, 8.6 kilometres to go. Silke Schmulders getting in on the wheel. Solbjørn Andersen is the Uno X rider in the red and yellow getting up. What a ride she was doing yesterday as well. Just 19 years old up there in that group on Blockhouse.
Yeah, just 19 years old, 21st on GC at 19 minutes, but such a young rider, and we know that the Uno X team have got a sort of agenda of trying to develop that young talent. So it seems like she's in a good place at the moment with that team and performing really well in this Grand Tour.
A German champ on the front. One of those riders that is selfless, you would say, in terms of the sort of rider that she is. And as I said earlier on, the video that the team put out talking about Franzi Koch and the impact and influence that she has over the team, just in terms of everything that she does, the work that she does, the tactical knowledge that she has. She's another rider who, you know, you look, she's just 24 as well, and she seems like she's been around for ages. And when you look at DSM Firmenich, you look at the role that Pfeiffer Georgi often plays within a team, and it seems that her and Franzi are quite similar in the influence that they have over the team, which is wise beyond their years as well.
Yeah, wise beyond their years indeed, and yeah, two national champions as well, and they're clearly in a good place for them to develop. We've spoken a few times about how important that team environment is, and to find the right fit for you as a rider to be able to develop and have the freedom to race, but also work with your teammates. But most importantly, if you're happy, that's when you'll develop the most.
Definitely. Franzi Koch 7th in Paris-Roubaix in 2021. That was one of her sort of big performances as well. Anyone that put performance in Paris-Roubaix, find that one as well, and that debut in Paris-Roubaix 2021. 34 seconds to Adagace now, 7.1 kilometres to go. FDJ Suez launching their multiple esports world champ up the roads. Another rider that's just picking off those career wins as well. Those Adagace. Very successful in the past, down in Australia. Last year started the season really strongly down in Australia, taking that Deakin University road race, as it's called now, that Cadell Evans Great Ocean road race that we had that kicked off the season. L'Aquila is our Finnish town, the region's capital. Sits in the valley of the Eterno River, surrounded by the Sorrente Velino and Gran Sasso massifs at an altitude of 721 meters. So we have the Quattro Cantoni, notable religious landmarks, including the Basilica de Santa Maria di Collemaggiore, founded in 1287. And the local cuisine, I know you all like your local cuisine nods, and what do you have here? So local traditional specialities including gnocchi with saffron sauce, tiballa aquilana, which is a pasta bake, pecora al calara, that's a slow-cooked sheep stew, zuppa di sagna, and we also have the cecchi fagioli, a hearty pasta and legume soup, pecorino and ricotta cheese, cold cuts, mortadella di campostosto, lentil soup and farro soup. So there's your local cuisines as well. We're trying to make sure that we bring you everything here each day. 6 kilometres to go, 24 seconds. Adagace looking good to get up here, 1:22. So great scenario for Elisa Longa Borghini. There's your general classification on your screen. So 1 second between Elisa Longa Borghini and Lotte Kopecky. And Elisa Longa Borghini has pretty much not left Lotte Kopecky's wheel all day.
No, she hasn't, and that is exactly what she needs to do. Follow the world champion, follow rider #1 in this race, and just not let her gain any time on her. Our Breakaway riders are now on this climb, our uncategorised climb. We will go over the summit of this. at just over 4k to go. So it is a significant kick up here. We descend again and then we go up again to the finish. So this is where time gaps could come tumbling down if we see some fireworks in the peloton, some attacks going off. We shall see.
Blows out of pace. 20 seconds. It's a good chase by the FDJ Suez rider. When you've got a gap of about a minute, you've got to get across quickly. It's worth putting in that big burst, isn't it, to get across as quickly as you can. And this is why, when we look at our trio of leaders here, this is why we said that you need that buffer. You might want that 2.5 minute gap in terms of how quickly this gap could come down on a climb.
Yeah, this isn't as hard a climb as we had a couple of days ago, and uncategorised like we keep mentioning. But at the moment, 119 over the peloton. The peloton are still on this flatter section of road. Lee Fisher-Black, still the rider, desperately trying to limit the losses here. But she's getting a bit of assistance now from Liv Alula-Jaco. They've also missed out on this breakaway.
Yeah, Silke Schmolders looking as we turn right off the road. Schmolders trying to lead out here for Mavi Garcia, who might fancy her chances of trying to get up the road here. Garcia, as a rider, would fancy a stage win here. Silke Schmolders has been a great teammate, has put in a great performance in this race for Liv Alula-Jaco. Garcia clearly feeling that she wants to go on attack. Cecily at Trip Ludwig getting up there. Lotte Kopecky and Elisa Longo-Borghini. The first three on our GC, our red jersey, our pink jersey, and our white jersey, all just lined out here. Longo-Borghini has just latched herself to the wheel of Kopecky today. Garcia going on the attack. Schmolders can sit back here, try and let her Spanish teammate go clear. Kopecky looks back now at Longo-Borghini and Bradbury, and the gap to the next riders opens. That out of the saddle style of the rider in the olive green jersey, Paulina Royackers, trying to get up to those riders just ahead of her. They're pulling the cars out of the gap. 49 seconds now is the gap from our leaders to our chasers. Kopecky, the gap going out here to Mavi Garcia. Garcia just stretching this advantage on the climb. We'll see how Kopecky's going to play this one now, because she doesn't want to completely go into the red. She's got to be a little bit mindful of the K's done, the climbing kilometre, the climbing elevation that we've had in this race, and also knowing how strong Elisa Longo-Borghini is on a finish like we've got today.
Yeah, she'll be well aware of the strength of Longo-Borghini. These are two runners that love racing against each other. I must say, brilliant move here by Liv Alula-Jaco with Silke Schmolders setting this up here for Mavi Garcia. She has got a decent gap here over the next group. You can see the time gaps tumbling down to the breakaway on this climb. We will descend again before we have the climb to the finish, so we can see those time gaps extend. Garcia, of course, isolated at the moment in that awkward position ahead of the peloton, but not on terms with the breakaway.
World champion Lotte Kopecky in the red jersey, points leader. Back up to our leaders. Ruth Edwards decides it's time to go. Francie Koch just getting distance here under the pressure of Ruth Edwards. Kim Lacour going with her. Francie Koch just trying to time trial her way back on here. Kim Lacour counters over the top for AG Insurance Sudal. You said we get to the top of here and then descend down and kick back up towards the finish. Garcia is powering across the gap here to Los Araques. We didn't quite get on to the three leaders, and that group behind is just disintegrating under the pressure of the attacks on the climb. It's Magdalena Valieres out of the saddle here. The EF Oakley Cannondale, but you've got Kopecky, Longo-Borghini, Bradbury, Labuse, Uttrup Ludwig, and Marie Myring, I think, is the Movistar rider just on the back here. There's Paulina Royackers just out of the saddle. There's Antonia Niedermeyer is also still in this group. So anyone within the top 10 who wants to keep that top 10 position needs to be in this group. 4.1 to go. Garcia up to Araques here. 36 seconds still. Kim Lacour and Ruth Edwards are holding out of the saddle. Paulina Royackers. What a ride Royackers did yesterday. Just kept coming back to the front. Every time she got distance, she got back up to Lotte Kopecky and Elisa Longa-Borghini.
Oh, never giving up at all. Always fascinating to watch her race. Always keen to race aggressively. Very distinctive style, and did enjoy watching her make multiple battles back to that group.
3.9 to go. We're descending, and Francie Koch is just trying to ride her way back in here. Ruth Edwards and Kim LaCourte ahead. Ruth Edwards roaring on Kim LaCourte here to try and keep her working, get her through. You've got to say the power of Maddie Garcia on this climb here when Nifra Black, my apology, won her stage. It was Maddie Garcia that started that one. And Elisa Longa-Borghini is doing the right thing here, just leaving Lotte Kopecky on the front. And interesting that Lotte's feeling that she wants to work. She clearly feels that she needs the bonus seconds, because Maddie sits 10th at 5 minutes and 13 seconds. So Kopecky clearly racing here to try and pull everything back to have the opportunity for bonus seconds on the line.
Yeah, absolutely that. Kopecky did say in her interview that, the bonus seconds, that's where her strength lies. If she can come into the finish with Longa-Borghini and beat her in the sprint, she will get more bonus seconds and she would take the overall victory in this Giro. So Kopecky having to be patient because she's not got any teammates here, but you can see she was forced to do the work on the front of this group to bring back Maddie Garcia and Lotte Kopecky, who are now back with them in this front group of really sort of elite riders here in this Giro d'Italia women. But still 41 seconds to our breakaway with just over 2k to go.
We're looking for the 2 kilometres of go points. We started the day with 759.7 kilometres and 11,145 metres of climbing in the legs of the riders in this year's Giro d'Italia women. And at the end of today, another 117 kilometres and an additional 2,406 metres of climbing. The gap in the general classification, 1 second. Coming into the finish now, the scenario, 3 riders up the road. There are 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds on the line as Francie Koch makes contact with Kim LaCourte and Ruth Edwards. This is advantage Longa-Borghini. If these 3 can come to the top and battle out, take those bonus seconds for Elisa Longa-Borghini, it's just about staying on the wheel of Lotte Kopecky or trying to come past her at the finish. What a final kilometre we have ahead. It all comes down to this. Out at that corner, Antonia Niedermayer on the front here of that Agnieszka Scanlon. Sorry, that is Antonia Niedermayer, my apologies. Kopecky, Longa-Borghini are all there. 44 seconds, kilometre and a half to go. And we've still got some little ramps up towards the finish, Joe. It's not an easy final K at all.
We do have a ramp up to the finish, and Longa-Borghini still has a teammate here in Guy Realini, so that could be really advantageous to have that support. You can see here now as the road ramps up ahead of our breakaway, they're on 1.2k to go. We can see the 1k to go banner just up ahead on this one, on that longer shot we had moments earlier. This is the crucial moment to decide this Giro d'Italia women.
It is indeed. 3 riders at the head of the race, this chasing group. It's a sprint to the line between the rider in red, the Maglia Rossa, in a world champion, Lotte Kopecky, and the rider on her wheel, the Italian, in the Maglia Rossa, 2008, Fabiano Luperini, the last Italian rider that took the Giro d'Italia for the home nation. Elisa Longa-Borghini, previously second on the general classification. A breakaway goes through 1 kilometre to go. They cannot mess around at all. They will be back with them.
No, they can't, and I do keep seeing Ruth Edwards being the rider on the front, encouraging everybody to work hard together. She's clearly got good legs, clearly really wants to save victory after getting close a few days ago, just losing out to Liana Lippert, but now fireworks behind the bunch.
They are. Dominika Voracek goes on the attack here for the team of UAE ADQ. Out of the group there is that Los Adagast going for the second time. Voracek Trying to get a stage win here for the team of UAE ADQ. Murray Myring on the front for Movistar. There's Magdalena Valieras. Myring in the blue. Valieras attacks up the left. 800 metres to go. We're watching out now the red jersey and the Maglia Rosa will be looking at each other for Longo Borghini. She just got to keep Lotte Kopecky right in front of her and try and edge past her at the line if she can. These three leaders, 700 metres now to go to the top. Valieras, the Canadian, Myring on the attack here for Movistar. We're looking as well around the top 10. So Royackers on the outside of the group. It does look now like our stage win is going to our breakaway, or is it? If they start to mess around at all, this chasing group could be back with them. Labus, Niedermeyer on the front. Uttrup Ludwig gets into the moving up there. Barbara Malcotti wearing number 94, but they've got to bring these three back. 500 metres to go. We're looking for second Giro stage win for Ruth Edwards. Biggest win of her career for Kim Lacourt and Franzi Koch. If they can take this one for Elisa Longo Borghini, this is the scenario that she wanted. Three riders coming into the finish and taking away those bonus seconds. And Neve Bradbury now attacks out of the group for Canyon SRAM. Bradbury looking to try and take advantage of Kopecky and Longo Borghini looking around at each other. And now the Canyon SRAM rider takes off on the attack. And Kopecky has got Longo Borghini right with her. Elisa Longo Borghini is just got to stay right on the wheel of Lotte Kopecky. And you can see the effort that the world champion is having to make here. Now the sprint starts for the line. Lacourt and Edwards. Kim Lacourt edging clear here. Kim Lacourt, Franzi Koch at the wheel. Kim Lacourt is going to take the stage victory for AG Insurance Sidal, the biggest win of her career. Kim Lacourt takes the stage. The national champion Mauritius takes it. That's your bonus seconds. And Elisa Longo Borghini attacks. And Kopecky has no answer. Finally, for the first time since 2008, Elisa Longo Borghini right clear to secure the Maglia Rosa for Italy. Longo Borghini gets the win in the Giro that she has fought for her whole career. But what a battle with the world champion Lotte Kopecky, who crosses the line. Chapeau to two great champions. But Elisa Longo Borghini, Joe, finally takes the GC in the Giro.
Finally, it is done. From that very first time, there was 1 second lead she had after the first stage. 1 second lead going into the final stage, all coming down to that final sprint. And she had the legs, gapping Kopecky at the end there. And once we got to the line, not in doubt at all. She has sealed the victory.
Oh, what a mighty battle. There's Jacopo. Elisa Longo Borghini. Finally, Italian eyes are smiling tonight. An Italian in the Maglia Rosa. What a ride. Her young Italian teammate Gaia Realini instrumental in the ride up the blockhouse yesterday. But Elisa Longo Borghini finally takes the win.
two riders with a slight gap there. Fuglsang on the plus. And a lot of superstars in the group chasing on. This is one of the groups that's just dropped off the back with Turner in it. Also there is Marco Haller. 1-2-2 is Cedric Burnens. 56 there. Oliver Naassen. Kevin Vauquelin, who won stage 2. And his teammate just ahead there. And then there's this gap. More riders goodbye. Cofidis, they had a full page in L'Equipe today, talking about how they had or hadn't done things right. And on the national day, I don't think it was ever really going to be a day for Lapéja today, but it's not looking like it at all. He's dropped.
No, and haven't been in the best of form in this race. We haven't seen him a lot, but sometimes the riders, you know, you not see maybe for the first 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, and then as you get in to that point of the race, they start getting better. Sometimes, you know, they don't feel at their best, but yeah, Lapéja, national champion, not looking good again today, as he has been for a number of days, a lot of days in this race.
Yeah, on the attack once more. Total Energy will follow them as the Plus and Fuglsang are caught. Two more riders from UAE start to make their presence felt at the front, one of whom we've already seen was Adam Yates, the other is now Max Soler. More attacks start to come from behind. A couple more of those yellow helmets we can see there. Oof, you can tell it's difficult if Wout Poels is being dropped already. Deary me. Brutal. Still 3Ks to the top. Next to say goodbye is the former leader of the Vuelta, Odd Christian Eiking. That's Nico Denz wearing 82. 37 there is Geraint Thomas. Yesterday admitted to suffering from COVID a little. Felt good enough to ride on. He's in that next group that's been dropped. Podium place, of course, at the Giro again this year. Former Tour winner. Geraint Thomas for now says goodbye to the front. Can't be that many left at the front now. That's all that's left. Deary me.
And we can see on the front, you know, not able to get out a group here. As we can see, Ben Healy just pushing on, but you know, a very slim advantage over the front of the peloton and being chased down by the rider on the front there. The good thing is, I think, there's a lot of riders out the rear, so there'll be a lot of groups to be able to form together and try and get back into the peloton when they get over this one. We have a good section in the valley, but then we go on to another first category climb. But when you have numbers, of course, it's always the advantage if they work well together and try and rectify the situation, because when you see the riders are going out here, a lot of really good timers, it just tells the fatigue. This race being so difficult, it's telling on a lot of riders.
More than 2 weeks in now. That was Frank van den Broek who made an early attack. He's gone. Also going with him, the former world champion, current Portuguese champion, Rui Costa. Jordan Gigas, the riders who joined the Irishman Ben Healy. We saw Bruno Mirai chasing down. On his wheel, not taking the turn though, obviously told to stay with his man, was Matteo Jorgensen. Keep me on this because there are two jerseys belonging to UAE Emirates sneaking into a group here, Sean.
Yes, well, we have seen the team of UAE. They've been very present to the front here, and when you've got the class riders in that team, and we see the way they have been, you know, as a team, they've really dominated yesterday and many days previous as well. And the riders here, they're going to be comfortable in this situation. We can see Soler, we can see Sivakov there, we can see Yates just a bit further back. So, yeah, UAE very much to the front, and they do not want to leave a big group get away here and having to control. So that's what they're doing, they're macking for the moment. But, yeah, it's a great situation to be in, a great feeling as well as a rider of that level. When you're here in the front of the race and you're bossing the peloton, you're in control at the moment. It's a lovely way to be. You enjoy it like this, where the guys are out the rear, the fatsmen, the non-climbers. It's a horrible day here to start out.
Giga goes again, and Mirai tries to follow Ben Healy, peels off. This now is Jai Hindley. Staying close to Jai Hindley, and I think the reason we saw those two UAE helmets and then white jerseys following was the fact that Matteo Jorgensen was there. They were marking him. They weren't letting him go anywhere. Jorgensen 10th at 10:35, crucially teammate of Jonas Vingegaard. Like Onley's going to try again. By the way, the last Frenchman to win on the 14th of July, Warren Barguil, was hovering perilously close to that wide-open trap door at the back. He was victorious 7 years ago in the Pyrenean town of Foix. Is Stefan King. Talk about that. I think that was him next to him, the Swiss star. The top's up here, and this is a beautiful pit road. One of my favourite places in the Pyrenees. This nice sunny day. You've got the other road that goes up to Péragude. Hill that they're going to go down now rather rapidly all the way towards Bagnac-Voluchon. This is the Tour de France in all of its essence. And Bruno Mirail again is on the front. Two riders come across. We think might have been Only. We'll wait to get a look. Couple trying to come and join. David Gaudu has turned up. Few riders blocking the road at the front. A small group looks like it might have an opportunity to get a bit of road. They look around, but then the attacks come again. Here come Movistar. They look to be Oyer Lascano yet again.
Yes, and of course he is an eye on the polka dot jersey, so trying to get into the breakaway. He picked up quite a number of mountain classification points yesterday. But we can see Bruno Amaray there riding on the front. He's the local, of course. So when you know the road, it makes it much easier. Or does it?
I've went for that second half and qualifier there. Or does it? Exactly. There's Biniam Girmay. He's almost survived to the top there with... And he's climbing well, Jonathan Castro Viejo. That's how well Biniam Girmay is going. Jonas Abrahamsson, by the way, was just losing contact. And we're not used to seeing him, are we, in his normal jersey anymore? Out of the polka dots for the first time today. They're being looked after by Jonas Vingegaard. Gaudu at the front. It looks as though they've been pulled up to the back by Oyer Lascano. He sits at the top of your picture now and just tries to steal a march. Sean mentioned the King of the Mountains competition. He's a kilometre away from the top, and there are 10 points available at the top of the Pedro Short. It is a first category climb. Simon Yates starts to show his face, left-hand side, orange and green jersey. And now he makes a move. Always going to be followed, a rider of that caliber. He's won in the Pyrenees before. Of course, he's out of the general classification. He's looking to try and take what would be a second stage win for his team after Dylan Groenewegen already won last week. I wonder if he has his eyes on the polka dot jersey at some point as well with the week lifted up. Follows, the wind never far away. Carapaz there in the pink jersey. Gaudu looks around. That's Mikel Land at the back of the shot, right on the wheel of Adam Yates. This is Niels Bullitt. He's just about hanging on. He's not far from the top, almost made it. You think that if you get to this stage, Sean, there's not a Pierce in there as well. You're a good descender, you might well get back on the other side.
Yes, it depends on this final couple of 100 metres, 600 metres to go. So it looks like anybody is there on the tail of the peloton should be able to make it back on the descent. And we see Girmay there. He was just digging full 100% trying to stay, because if he gets over this one, he gets intermediate straight points, then he picks up green jersey points, and that would really, you know, kill off the green jersey classification, because he's a long way ahead. But we can see here the action is really kicking off here in this final 500 metres before the GPM point.
And Romain Bardet already wants the winner of this competition, wants to say goodbye to the Tour with a polka dot jersey to take home. And here he is, just about dodging that supporter there. Thankfully no packet of crisps this time. Second wheel is Oyer Lascano. Third in the line there, David Gaudu. Here comes Lascano, gritting his teeth, the Basque rider. Plenty of support for him today. 230 metres, and look at the Basque boy go. Movistar have their man. Can Gaudu get there? He might well, but he'll do it. David Gaudu comes through, and he should now take the points. 10 points here to go to Gaudu, it seems. Lascano will look for the 8 that will catapult him up in the standings as well. You see those fast flags in the background. Zahir waving the Rocky Wild as well. And it's David Gaudu smiling, believe it or not, after all of that ordeal. Well played. There's the first reward of the day. It's 10 points for Gaudu. It's 8 going to Lascano. 6 will go the way of Valde. And the King of the Mountains competition on one of the big days for it is underway for the day. What sort of gaps are we looking at behind? For now, the biggest gap is seen, Sean.
Yes, we can see there the big effort to get the maximum mountain classification points, and we can see Carapaz kicking on here again. This is going to be an interesting one now. There's more riders wanting to get across here, and they're going to be concerned that in the peloton there's a lot of teams wanting to leave this one go away, notably the GC men, but it's a small group considering 190 kilometres still to go, but yeah, if it starts to close down the peloton, a small group could be the one go, but it's going to be a long day and a difficult day for such a small group.
Now really back to centre. Slightly technical for the first couple of kilometres, and then it's a really quick, fast, wide road to Bagna Beluso. But that's Chris Froome, remember that?
Yes, and looking at the GPM classification, Lozano, he has 27, he was sitting in 5th place. Purdue was a little bit further down in 20, but when you look at the overall general classification, Pogacar 56, that is a big one to come back on. But if you get into breakaway, you can pick up a lot of points here today.
When it comes to temperatures, Anna, how did you sustain it?
I loved it. I feel like I should have been born in a hot country because I rode the World Championships in Doha and I was absolutely fine. And it's really interesting because it's very, very individual, but for today, the riders have to take a huge amount of consideration into the heat, and that will add to the fatigue of these riders and how much they're going to have to fuel throughout, not just with hydration, but with sustenance and carbs, and they'll be looking at 120 grams per hour, and that is hard to do when you're racing on these climbs and then on the descent, because you just can't take it on board when you're so focused from start to finish.
Just a quick word on temperature out here, 27 degrees, it certainly feels a lot hotter than that, no shelter at all, the riders pouring with sweat. Oscar Bottles just went past Ben Turner, of being as good as it is after me to pour water over him. Stevie Williams as well, just in front, or just behind the Bruno Amirai. Some real classy bike riders been punted out, but it's been hot conditions, and we've still got so far to go. Stefan Kuhn, drenched in sweat up this time. This race has exploded, it really has. Back to the commentators.
Something up, just hearing about the punishing temperatures. Likewise, by the way, in the Giro women's race, which is going on, we'll catch up with that, of course. An amazing race, separated the two leaders by only a second going into stage 8. What an amazing contest that was turning out to be. And also, if you have a further link on your screen, you can catch up with the highlights of that as well. With the company of jheski and the Giro d'Italia winners, Christy Fine, Mike Nichols and Joe Rowsell. There is a raft of entertainment for you in this sport that we love, and today is a pivotal moment as we head to Plateau de Days. It is a mountain that has, in the past, defined the Tour itself. We'll see today whether the gaps are magnified between our leaders. I feel that the cut-off point as well may account for a few today, Robbie.
It could well do. This is one of those really dangerous days for the sprinters when you start straight up a climb like they did today of 7 kilometres long. So your distance right from kilometre 0 as the Alps is raining attacks, you find yourself with an uphill battle, as they say. Quite literally. Here's one. We know teams have got cameras watching through their team. We know that Guy Thomas has been struggling, and Egan Bernal is as well down.
Yeah, that's good to see, and I just think this has to be illness surely for Ruben by now. He's obviously not where he was a few years ago, however, he came into this tour looking to try and stay up there on the general classification. We know Geraint Thomas has tested positive for COVID, as has Tom Pidcock, who has left this race. We just hope it doesn't get to the, I guess, the true top of this race and upset that GC battle. But like you said, Carlton, today is really a day where it's either going to upset the GC or confirm it further.
Feels that way. We've got just over 950 metres before we get to the top here. And it's quite a spiteful climb, this one. There's no respite as you get to the top. It'll swing around 7% at the very axis of it, and then we have this technical descent. And wanting to get there first, as you can see, at least for the time being, Movistar being extraordinarily busy, and Alex Aramburu is setting the pace at the moment, and others would quite frankly like to join the fun. This is drama personified.
Yung ano dyan, meron tayo dyan dalawang 1 HP, may 1.5 dyan.
Well, the stage profile, and I think the organisers
Yung pinakamalaki dyan sa taas, sa may...
today that just begged for aggression right from the very start.
Sa baba lang, 1.5, tsaka 1 HP.
Successful in the mountain stages so far. I mean, the tour started in a very unique way for Tour.
1 HP yan, tapos 1.5 yun.
One from breaks, both being won by Frenchman. But since then, the breaks have been really controlled. We've had UAE and Visma Lisa bike just dragging everything back in, and the breaks not getting much love. And today, you can see there's just so much determination now as the tour is about to enter its final week to just make one of these breaks work. And we've got the firepower up front to do it.
We have, Danny, we saw Lenny Martinez looking like he was struggling earlier on. Then he looked like he'd found his mojo. But now he's struggling again by the looks of him. Just a few moments ago, he was really stamping on the pedals to try and get to this peak, this apex, before he can start descending and maybe put some power back in the legs. But if you get tailed off at a moment like this, it's going to be a big cost.
It's going to be a really big cost, and it goes back to kind of fueling strategy and kind of core body temperature strategy as well. And there's a day where you can go through so many feelings throughout the race, feeling good, feeling bad, and everything in between. And it's about managing yourself, managing your efforts throughout the stage, and looking at what your goal is as a team, and then using your efforts as a bike rider effectively. So it does look like it's going to be one of those days where you've got to try and look after yourself really effectively throughout.
Carapaz just bouncing through about here. I think he's just about 6 wheels further back. He's making himself get up towards the peak. There's mountain points up for grabs as well. They're well worth having in a situation such as this. A lot of them as well. We're sprinting forward. See who gets it on the throw, Robbie.
Well, it was the Movistar rider who got in front of Richard Carapaz. It was Romo, I believe, that Alex Aramburu was setting the pace for. Enric Mas getting a bit further back. But Romo coming into today in the mountains competition was exactly nowhere.
But there's 60 points on offer today, and I think it was Tadej Pogacar was competition 56 of climbing and high category climbs that we've got left to come in this tour. That competition is still very much open.
And that was my point. He was exactly nowhere coming into today, but then taking this Category 1 climb, you can go from nowhere to podium. And in one stage, you can win every climb of the day.
Yeah, it's 10 points for a Category 1 climb and 20 for that high category climb that we've got at the summit of today's stage.
Pressure's on for Lisa Bike. And that is Jonas Vingegaard nursing the polka dot jersey on behalf of Tadej Pogacar, who owns it. At least at the start today. Look how solid Adam Yates is. He's hewn out of granite, isn't he? Everyone has some lateral movement, except for Adam Yates, who seems like he's been set in stone since birth, from the waist up. Amazing.
Yeah, incredibly solid, and what a ride from him yesterday. It's one thing to get the instruction from your team leader to go on the attack when everybody's on their limit. It's just quite another thing to do it like Adam Yates did, and just absolute perfect teamwork with what it takes to be able
able to do that is mind-blowing.
And it was great, wasn't it? We heard the interview from Adam Yates this morning. He said, you know, Tadej Pogacar had a conversation with him just before he attacked to tell him to attack, and he said, what on earth are you talking about? What do you mean I need to attack?
And come out of Adam Yates. What are you on about?
Yeah, that was it. What are you on about? I need to attack.
He spoke so quickly, Tadej didn't hear what he said in reply, so he had to do it. Here it is. Descent through the Lasse. Quite technical, this high base.
Just a daily reminder, today is the final stage, the Queen stage of the Giro d'Italia women over on our digital platform. Coverage started at 11:50 in the UK, so they're 40 minutes into that stage at the moment, or the coverage of it. You can join Martin Cross and Joe Rousel guiding you through the action. Elisa Longo Borghini has a 1 second lead over Lotte Kopecky as they take on the Castel del Monte climb between Pescara and L'Aquila. That is the final stage of the Giro d'Italia women now.
Amazing race. Louise is separated by 1 second on the finale. It could end in the sprint between the pair of them, Danny. Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, especially after the day they had yesterday on Blockhouse Ascent, which they had to tackle twice. So it is going to come down to the wire, and that's definitely not ending.
What about this? Let's see how the descent is indeed dealt with. Now, there are a series of steps. As you can see, they've cut into the mountain, and then you come... It's almost like one of those roller coaster moments where you just come to the peak of each little peaklet, and then all of a sudden you're going very, very rapidly once again downhill. Now, it's modest at the moment at 68, picking up 70. You'll hear the ebb and yaw of the motorcycle as he tries to take these corners. The squeak as well of the double wheels up front taking the loading into the corners. Absolutely ideal machines, to be honest, for camera bikes. And in fact, when you see them, you realise that you can actually park them up as well, and they stay standing. You don't have to mess around with a flip stand. So the cameraman can jump off the back as well, leave the bike indeed with in a position where they're ready to get away. It's a fabulous piece of machinery. It works extraordinarily well with these very focused turns that we're doing. It's not at the highest pace just yet, but you're going to get that without 5 stations. Just look at the pace and the determination that is being displayed on your screens right now. If you've got your chances, you have to take them. When they come, Robbie, is something else. This is a chance. A chance to make a statement. It's a chance, but if we look back to the Tour of last year, we had the two major teams trading blows. UAE one day would be on the front, pushing the pace, and then Vingegaard would take time over Pogacar. The next day, Visma would ride on the front, and then Pogacar would take time over Vingegaard. I think Visma really, we saw it from the interview today, they said it really went well for Jonas yesterday, and it's about what we expected, and I'm pretty pleased with how we went on a climb that didn't suit Jonas with its lower gradients. It's a bit more suited to a more powerful climber like Tadej Pogacar. They really are believing, and they're showing it in the way they're riding, that they believe in Jonas today on this course with these climbs, these gradients. And if they can keep it hard all day, they believe that Jonas will have the upper hand when it comes to the slopes of the Plateau de Bay. A general headwind we were expecting at the finale today. That's apparently, according to the weather forecast. I know that there's plenty of Lasse as well, so you're going in every which way as far as directions are concerned in that headwind. But I think this is, from what we saw just before, it's a Elite bike. They do want to show their strength and their belief in today, and that transmits itself to a rider like Jonas Vingegaard, who sports the polka dot jerseys today, the polka dot jersey today on behalf of Tadej Pogacar. My feeling is that it's quite a decisive day, if only psychologically, Robbie. Well, it could be decisive for the entire tour, because although we think we know the balance of power, it can change so quickly. We think back 12 months ago and Tadej Pogacar then suddenly just blew to pieces, lost so much time. The year before that on the Col de Granon, same thing. We thought he had
both Roglic and Vingegaard under control, and then he blew up on the final climb and lost himself more than 2 minutes, and that was the tour done there. So Visma Lease Bike, they realised that today, yes, it could be a psychological blow if he can match Pogacar, take a little bit of time back, but also realise it's a massive opportunity to wrestle the lead off Tadej Pogacar all in one go. And it's also not the last opportunity to do that, because we're only entering now the final 7 stages of this tour, and there's plenty more climbing to come in the Alps as well.
Well, I guess the hope is that a repeat of stage 11 into Lyon, where Vingegaard got, I think it's fair to say, possibly an unexpected victory in that drive for the line, mano a mano with Tadej Pogacar. Don't be surprised today if indeed it turns out to be a battle between the pair of them again. Yesterday, how much do you read into today compared to yesterday? Well, they're all different days, and I just feel like Jonas Vingegaard is growing into the race, but I just wonder how much he's missing Sepp Kuss, Robbie.
Well, that's one thing, missing Sepp Kuss, but you can only go as fast as you can go on the climb, no matter who you've got in front of you. What my concern for Jonas Vingegaard has been going into this tour and throughout it, where people say, well, Vingegaard is only going to get better through the tour. The more racing, the better he's going to get. I don't subscribe completely to that theory. I think for a while, yes, you ride yourself in, and he's coming in with a certain level of freshness, even though we know where he's come from injury-wise and lack of racing. He has done a lot of training. But I also believe that I think there should, or it's reasonable to expect there could come a point in this race where that upward trajectory is no longer upward, it plateaus off and even starts going back the other way due to a lack of foundation. All those weeks of missed training, you can catch up with intensity, doing training camps, cramming in as much as you possibly can, but that long, smooth, uninterrupted run-in builds the foundation on which your form sits. And I won't be surprised if we got to a point where Jonas starts going back the other way and then his form is then degrading.
I was actually thinking precisely the same thing, Robbie, and also that in another way, Tadej Pogacar, when are his Giro legs going to tell against him? Or indeed, do you think the way he's riding at the moment, he shows that actually he's carrying that form brilliantly and he's undiminished?
Well, he is carrying the form brilliantly. There was a hiccup the other day and we thought, well, maybe this is the day and he should maybe conserve himself a bit more. I firmly believe it was a fueling issue with Tadej Pogacar on stage 11 to Le Lyon. He seemed to have rectified that situation, rode aggressively yesterday with the team. But the question still remains, can he keep that up through the final 7 days? A week is a long time in the Tour de France, especially when it's the 3rd week.
Very much so. And indeed, of course, we've had 14 days of racing, let's not forget, bisected by a rest day. Today will take us to the 2nd rest day. And what battle plans may remain after that? Well, we've got a quality group now here up front. We have Richard Carapaz just hoving in on Simon Yates, many people's pick for today, actually. I don't know who you picked today, Robbie.
Well, in our competition here on the Breakaway show, our predictor, I was 4th pick today, and I went with Carlos Rodriguez. We all went for GC contenders, the top 4 on GC, so nobody went out on a limb. All marking each other at this point we are. But then for fun, we said, well, why don't we pick also a rider for a breakaway? So we've got to ignore the top 10 on GC and pick riders for the break. And for that one, I think Danny Rowe went with Simon Yates.
Good pick, yep.
I can't remember who Adam and Orla went for, but I went for Ben Healy. And he's now in the group. Someone went for Carapaz.
Well, all good picks, to be honest. And don't be surprised if this thins down as a group and gets ever more selective. Let's see what kind of riders as well can carry us through the great plateaus and come down into the valley off the top of this, which we still have to deal with. We saw it hit 11% not long ago, and it was matched by the pace at 11 kilometres per hour. It's taking a long time to get to the top of this. We're 2 kilometres remaining before we get there. Little bit of respite, not overly described on the climb itself, but it kicks up again before the top. and then we'll be heading down on not an overly technical descent, which will take us to a long reach before we get to our next climb. Some respite, but a minute and 14 only, Robbie. That gap is still closing.
Yeah, it's not good news for the break that they're being, pegged at such a small gap. In fact, being just brought back a little bit under the impetus of, it was Wout van Aert who led them onto this climb. I haven't been able to see yet if it's still him leading, but the face of Bob Jungels tells us that this is getting close to maximal effort that you would be prepared to put in with 134 kilometres remaining. That is on.
The Luxembourger is known for being able to park the pain brilliantly so. In the day, Liège-Bastogne-Liège going his way. Well,
Staged in the Tour a couple of seasons ago.
Phenomenal. And I remember him when he got it. I think Dan Lloyd actually shed a tear because, of course,
They must have something in his eye.
I think it was. Yeah, well, when the servants of the sport actually come through to the top table, it's lovely when they can help themselves, and it can be a rarity, can't it, Robbie?
Oh, it can be when guys get an opportunity. Brilliant bike riders, but we don't often see them get the opportunity or be in the position to win. And then Bob Jungels did exactly that 2 seasons ago, 2022, into Châtel-le-Port-de-Soleil. Brilliant win, pushed himself beyond his limits, you'd say, because he was absolutely in pieces afterwards, emotionally and physically. What a day.
I think we all were, to be honest. 1,500 metres before we get to the top, just a little bit, as you can see, a disengagement. Kwiatkowski was very busy yesterday. He's one of those that's suffered early today. And to climb straight out of the back door after the climbing that finished yesterday, Robbie, there's a level of cruelty to that is hard to... Well, I was going to say it's hard to fathom. I understand why it was done. And this has, what I think, will prove to be a critical day.
Well, it's the sort of day you see in the road book as a non-climber and just say, oh no. I hope something happens that they need to change that stage and we don't need to start up a 7K climb. But aggression guaranteed, and we've got a really strong group off the front. They've got their work cut out.
Just behind the main group on the Porte d'Aspet, and thank goodness there's a little bit of shade offered up by the trees here. There's a dappled effect on the road. Riders starting to get drops now from moving at 100 k's an hour, 115, 120 k's an hour earlier on. We're down to just 11 kilometers an hour behind this group. There are several riders that are being shelled as we go over the top, but it's absolutely beautiful here. But Bruce will put a little bit of mercy for these riders as they're shielded from the sun. But I can still see the cars giving out ice to the riders, ensuring that they are fully hydrated. That is the name of the game. We cannot reiterate that enough. Keeping these riders cool. But thankfully, nature doing its part briefly for the riders of the Tour on this climb. Back to the commentators.
Thank you, Matt. In the shaded lee of the mountain here, there is the Pogacar being carried today by Jonas Vingegaard and his team, I think proving their strength at the moment. Questions were asked of him by some of the media yesterday as to whether he missed Sepp Kuss, and he said, yeah, sure I miss him. But my team have done an amazing job so far. He wouldn't be saying anything else. And that he believes that they've got the strength still to remain competitive. I mean, the fact that he had to say it almost seems a strange one. It's not an unbridgeable gap at the top, Robbie, but it is starting to yawn at a minute 57, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a minute 57, it doesn't seem like much. And on a climb like this one, for example, you're well within the same kilometre on the road as the yellow jersey, to put it in terms of how many metres that is, that time gap. But it is a lot to pull back. He's up against it, but we've seen Jonas Vingegaard do it over the last couple of years. Suddenly put a massive gap between himself and Tadej Pogacar. So his team absolutely believes in it. If he didn't believe in it, he wouldn't go along with this tactic of them setting this strong pace and keeping the break in check. And it's not that they're so concerned about the break itself or wanting to ruin their chances of a stage victory. It seems like their plan is just make this race hard all day long, because if they can wear everybody down, they think that plays into the strengths of Jonas Vingegaard. So there will be people, fans out there, particularly fans of riders who have got themselves into the race, and why are Visma ruining it for these guys
trying to be in the break. There's no danger on GC. Well, it's just not about that. It's a longer game that they're playing that has to do with trying to fatigue their rivals.
Yeah, almost accidentally catching the break to a certain extent. So like Guillaume Martin is up here for Corvidis. Will be opening that ebbs as the break flows. In fact, Lenny Martinez, the only other Frenchman left out front at the moment. Lenny's been coming and going, let's put it that way, in terms of his visage and his comfort levels. He really does, like an open book, show when he's really feeling the pain. That's been on a number of occasions. Unlike the Yateses, it's very hard to read them. They always look absolutely within themselves. And Simon Yates, brother of Adam, is up here. All sons of Adam, of course. 245 metres less than that. Indeed, they're picking up the pace just a little bit as they come up to the top. More mountains points up for grabs. Who's going to reach out? We may have another sprintlet here for the points, Robbie.
You know, Javier Romo, he's poised to try and take the points, making sure he's riding at or near the front. Richard Carapaz, just conspicuous in his absence, he dropped himself to the back of the group, and after having to play second fiddle to Romo over the top of the Col de Monte, maybe Carapaz has thought, you know what, I'm just going to save my energy and go for a stage victory rather than try and set myself up for the King of the Mountains competition.
Well, if that comes his way, it will have been well worth blowing out the candle, at least on this moment. But it looks like having a look-see on the barriers, couldn't quite see a way through. And in fact, we've rolled over here with Johannesson this time.
Less of a fight than the last one. Romo, you know, right up there, sort of edging towards getting the points, but just that final acceleration from Tobias Arland Johannesson from UNO-X Mobility gets top points.
And we'll get a definitive gap between the chase and those who are up the road in a short while. 9%, 8%, just coming off the maximum that we've had on this, which is rather cruelly nudged up to around 13% on occasion. You see that picking up as well graphically, I'm certain. Meanwhile, further back down the road, Jonathan Castro Viejo, just staying with it for now.
Just look up ahead of him, though. Yeah. Look at Nils Pollitt, the big man. He is still hanging in there.
He's phenomenal.
And he's going to get over this climb, and if he is needed, anything needed from him for the UAE team, he's there to do the job. He is riding a phenomenal Tour de France.
And look at this. This is Jonas Vingegaard calling for a little bit of pace, even over the top. And the gap's coming down, minute and 6. So we've got our definitive gap now to those out front. As the clock continues to roll here, just readjusting itself. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what it is. It looks like second by second, it's almost counting itself. Usually the clock gets reset when that starts to happen. 131 kilometres of the day still to go. It feels like we would have done all of the climbing that was required. Well, think again. We've got around 5,000 metres of altitude gain today. We don't get to the highest altitude itself specifically, but so much climbing today added together.
Wout van Aert is on a mission today. He's been joined for much of the day by Matteo Jorgensen as well. But Lemon up there too. They've been working hard, working well, working together. This Melissa Black would quite like to hit back. Yesterday was about Tadej Pogacar, who grabbed back the momentum in pretty spectacular style. Yesterday was his 45th race day of the season, Madam Blythe. It was his 16th win. That means that he's won 36% of the races he started this year. Over a third of the races he started, he's won. And that's not counting the second, third places and all the other times he's just controlled because he's been in a leader's jersey as well. By the way, the leader's jerseys, 32 of them so far this year. That's just in Grand Tours, Adam.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, it is crazy. People, you know, like, if you win a Tour de France stage, you've won a Tour de France stage. It's huge. It's the highlight of your career almost. You know, there's nothing, unless you win the Worlds or something like that, there's nothing really bigger, or a one-day classic, a monument. There's nothing bigger. And Tadej Pogacar is just constantly in that yellow jersey. He's constantly winning races, constantly winning stages. Like, what's he up to now? 13 stage wins in 4 Grand Tours, 5 Grand Tours, Tour de France's. It's incredible. And you have to remember, he's a GC rider. You know, he can win time trials, he can win mountain days, but he's not contested sprints, he's not contested breakaway days. He's just, yeah, I mean, his Palmares, looking down it gets to one of those ones where you start looking at, similar to Sean. You know, you start looking at Sean's Palmares, we forget what Sean's done a lot of the time, and then you go, well, I do, and then you go through his CV and you're like, oh my, like, what hasn't Sean Kelly won? You know,
talking of CVs, he's always going to get the job, isn't he? It's a very impressive one if you lay that one down on the interview.
Yeah, he is indeed.
We talked about 13 wins. His 13 wins from his 4.5 tours so far account for more than a half of his team's total wins ever at the tour. Yesterday was the 25th stage win for UAE Emirates and predecessors. I'm talking Lampre as well, down the years. You think of all the victories and great riders they had. Certainly, you think back into the noughties and the Simonis and people like that who rode for them. Piccolo Principe, Damiano Cunego as well. What a squad they were with their multiple victories. Sprinters as well. He rode for them for a while. We saw Gasparotto, didn't we, before he was there for a little while. Some tremendous riders were there. But yes, Pogacar, in just 4.5 participations at the Tour, has more than half of the team's Tour de France stage wins ever. And if you want to put Jonas Vingegaard into the story here, yesterday was the 9th time that they finished first and second together in whatever order. And by the way, that equals a record between two riders that hadn't been touched since the 1930s. A gentleman named André Leduc and Charles Pellissier, the other man in the mix, they were first and second 9 times between 1929 and 1931. And these two together, in their short history together, say what, 3-4 years riding the Tour together where they've shared out the tours, 2 each. Yes, first and second for the 9th time. You'd imagine the way they're racing, even today there could be a possibility of things that have come back. But there's other days where it could happen again and they could be setting the record. So in terms of adversaries going at each other, just looking at the numbers there, we are in one of the most special eras we've ever had.
We are, yeah, and that's just those GC riders, Then you look at the classics, and I think that's also what makes Tadej Pogacar a different bike rider to me. We talked about a few days ago, talking about Jonas and Tadej, and Jonas is a Tour de France rider. He's a Grand Tour rider, and so is Tadej Pogacar. But at the same time with Tadej, the guy can go and win Tour of Flanders. Jonas can't do that. He's not that type of rider, and I think that's what makes him that exceptional bike rider. You see a split within this race. The games are starting. Red Bull have been on the right side of it, along with Movistar.
And it's Sobrero forcing the split there. Behind you could see that Healy was forced to chase. He's getting some help now from Guillaume Martin, because on this day of all days, he does not want to miss out. And both French riders have missed the split here.
I mean, this is bad. It's 73 k's to go, they're faffing about like this. I mean, Carapaz is the one that's got to follow it. You think Carapaz has got a teammate in there. None of these riders want to be in this situation, but by the looks of things, none of them want to make the effort to work together and bring it back. And why did they stop in the first place? Because someone's not riding, because for whatever reason the group's too big, and then this happens. They'll be probably thinking in the back of their head, oh, I wish I didn't do that, because I've got to make this effort right now, and it's ridiculous.
There's also a lot of roads still to go, isn't it? Can they not just ride on together and keep the advantage up? We've got a first category climb, another section in a valley for nigh on 20 kilometres after that, and then we've got an all category climb.
Yeah, I mean, they're just looking at Carapaz there. It's ridiculous how they're riding, There's a climber in there with Richard Carapaz, one of the best climbers within this Breakaway, one of the best climbers within this Tour de France. It's that simple, really, and they're all looking at him and say, you need to close this down. If they think about it, if they go with Carapaz on the climb and he bridges across, that's going to be the hardest thing for them. They're just not giving themselves the best chance. This gap now growing, it's probably 15, 20 seconds at the minute. These riders riding in the front, Red Bull, absolute perfection here. And then you look at these guys, you're like, what on earth are you doing?
There's a lot of looking around, And then there's a move, Simon Yates, followed by Martin. At the front, it's Mas, Hindley, Jungle, Sobrero. 3 riders from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe making that front split that they engineered. They're with Laurens de Plus, Javier Romo, and Ben Healy.
It's just ridiculous. Like, you make all that effort to get in the break, you really go full gas, and then this happens. a split goes up the road on a flatter part of the section. You're not even dropped on a climb, you're just doing it because you want to save energy. You know, if you get a ride like that, it's really, oh, it frustrates me, Rob. It does. It's just dim.
I wish you had the mountain lakes back in your career, because the tactical side, I just love watching it while you're watching this, and you get angry at all of these moves.
But you did, like, this is the stuff that is really ridiculous and shouldn't happen, you know. Say if one of these riders finished second, who was in that second split today, say, I don't know, Carapaz or Fullsline, whoever it is, and they just couldn't quite catch Jai Hindley by 12 seconds, 10 seconds. They think like, oh look, I could have won that stage if I just committed then and didn't let that wheel go, or I just helped to chase it down.
And what's happening now? It's 21 seconds. A big one, it grows. This is what's coming up, by the way. And it is the Col d'Agnès, starting right there in Olu-les-Bains. That goes into the black straight away. That's plus 9% afterwards, between 6 and 9% into that red gradient. Twists its way up the mountain onto a bit of a plateau before it's back in the woods there. And pretty consistent. It's nasty. It doesn't go below 6.5% at any point, really. Consistently nasty, all the way up to 1,500 metres. It's the first category, Col d'Agnès, 10 kilometres at 8.2%. And considering what they've already done today, what they've already done in this tour, it is brutal. By the way, today is the stage with the most climbing in a single day at this particular tour. 5,000 metres over 198 k's. It's also one of the warmest days they've had at the tour as well, 30 degrees.
It's a proper day out, Rob. I mean, they're getting close to 5,000 metres of climbing. I think in the neutral zone that they had, 5,936 metres of elevation today. It is enormous.
$70 kilometres still remain today. The gap between the group that was just forced by Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe and the chasers has ballooned while we were looking at the 3D map there. It's doubled. Look at this. Bob Jungles has ridden his heart out. Javier Romo looks to be committing as well. He's got Enric Mas with him. This is Mateo Sobrero. And Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe have done the job for Jai Hindley, who sits there beautifully. But they haven't won the stage yet. But you have to say, well played to Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe. Well done to Movistar for getting two of their best riders in the whole tour. They're the best climbers they have. They're the guys who were up there in the GC before they fell off. And you've got the Plus up there who's made it, and Healy, who made that late move to come across, and he's made sure that there is representation now for EF Education Easy Post. And as I finish the phrase, it's going north further. It's almost a minute now. Chris Harper just trying to stay in touch. That was Bjogor losing touch. And talked about the wind. Just look at the way they've been lined up in than any breeze that's out there. And the breeze, 5 hour bit. With the gradients of 11% is what's doing the damage.
Would this be something now that maybe with the wind as it is, the Carapaz, just to get that recovery, if Ben Healy did drop back to him?
If it was an actual headwind straight into his face, it could make a difference. But even on 11%, that's negligible.
It was just the way that they were sort of angled across the road a minute ago, and they maintained that. I think they've slightly changed direction now, so they're riding in more of a straight line.
I think when you're on your absolute limit, and which you would be under these circumstances on these gradients, so he has dropped back and he's riding in front of him.
I think when it's like this, you know, it's not necessarily they're going to go quicker. I think it's more for Carapaz to get that rest in the wind. If it is a headwind, it's like cross headwind, at least Carapaz will be able to have however long it is with Healy, being able to sit on Healy's wheel and just get that recovery. It's gone down to 39 seconds, Carapaz to take 20 seconds out of that chase group.
Healy looks quite good, but it could be follow the pace at the front. Has taken that time that it takes to be caught by Richard Carapaz to catch his breath a bit, let the lactic acid
flow a bit out of the muscles and then make another effort. Everything he's got left for Carapaz. We'll see if they're both able to ride across. That would be impressive.
So there's Charlie Regalius as well, the team director, just chatting to the commissaire there as well about something or other. So, yeah, there must be some goings on.
40 seconds to make up, and Ben Healy today playing domestique for the Olympic champion Richard Carapaz, who's trying to win a stage of a tour. He's been second on a couple of occasions. Here is Enric Mas committing. They might be getting excited down in Perth. In Flanders, they'll have a bit of hope for Laurens de Plus, even though he's not the big name in here. And just down the road from me in Arta, the other side of the island in Mallorca, that is where Enric Mas is from. He has been up there for a long time. A Tour de France stage win would be a huge moment for a man who, despite his consistency, only has 6 professional wins in his career, and he's now 29.
He's a rider, though. I mean, when he's on, he's on. It's just getting him on, I guess. But this man as well interests me, you know. We saw De Plus last year in the Giro, how good he was for Geraint Thomas, just consistent. If you look where he is now, since this group has split, he has not done a tap. He has not been on the front. And as we spoke about before, he might just be saving a bit. He might be saving a bit here and there. Who knows? But just having him in that breakaway, I think, and if he's still there with those two, he's definitely feeling good today. And for Ineos, personally, they need that success.
I'm just getting the impression that out of the 3, he's the one that's just starting to struggle, though, Laurens de Plus.
I would be riding up this hill.
It's not a, it's just an observation, not a... Well, talking of wins, De Plus is a solid domestique, isn't he? So he doesn't often get the chance to ride for himself. When he first came on the scene, he was a young man, and they were wondering what kind of rider he was going to be. He won the Bink Bank Tour, which is now the Renui Tour. Let's call it the Tour of the Benelux. But he didn't win a stage then, so he's actually never won a pro race where he's come across the line and raised his arm as the actual race winner. So there's a first for everything, and here in the Pyrenees it would be a very big moment. Did you just see the graphic that came up on the right-hand side a minute ago, though, lads? There's more than 2,000 metres of climbing yet to come.
Yeah, I had a look at 69 k's to go when we crossed that. When they started this climb, they had 2,410 metres of climbing within 69 kilometres, basically. So, yeah, they've got an enormous amount ahead of them still after doing pretty much 2,400 already at the start of the stage.
Class dropped with Valde and Leinkies. Actually, yesterday had a decent day, was up to 15th in the GC. Now then, keep your eye on this, because this is Jan Tratnik who is dropped. So 1 man less now for this Melissa bike. Is there going to be enough firepower to finish the job here today? You just picked up on it before, Adam.
I think there is, you know, for Jonas. The difficult part is here now, is when he gets over the top of this climb. He's got the next climb, which is around 5 kilometres long, and then they've got a long descent which goes all the way down. Hardly any sort of climbing whatsoever. Tish Benoot now on the left side. Yeah.
So he's down to Kelderman now.
The worry for me, well, it's not really the worry. I think, you know, if they get up this climb, get over the top, they've got the next one. They don't necessarily have to ride on the downhill or the flat after that anyway, because they're not going to hurt the legs of the other riders. I think it's just the setting up for Jonas's attack, which he needs it to be hard. And he doesn't really have that on today's route. The last climb is extremely difficult, but if he wants to bring time back, he's going to have to go quite early on that climb and ride a hard tempo. So I think they're just making it, as I said earlier, they're making it hard where they can and where it's going to hurt the legs rather than when it's not going to hurt the legs, and riding for riders' sake.
Let's get a check on where everybody is, because we're halfway up this climb, the Col d'Agnès. This is all that remains of the yellow jersey group. Right at the back here, Tejada. And at the front you can see it's Wilco Kelderman, who is now the second to last helper for Jonas Vingegaard in this group. Only Matteo Jorgensen remains after that. So they'll be hoping that Kelderman can ride up here. We were talking about Healy and Carapaz being together. That gap has been cut to just over 30 seconds now. And the leaders of the race, De Plus, Mas and Hindley, up the road with still over 3 minutes on that yellow jersey group that we were looking at.
I'm very intrigued to know if Healy has dropped back or no, he's gone. 36 seconds, Carapaz has left him behind. Maybe took that recovery, maybe not, but Healy will keep going. keep trucking away, and Carapaz has 34 seconds to make up.
So I think it's what I thought about before, that Healy was dropped from the front, took the time on his way, you know, not his way backwards, but as Carapaz was coming across to him, that he took the opportunity to take a few big, deep breaths and then do what he could for Carapaz. And Lawrence de Plus back at the car. I just wonder if that was also just a couple of lengths that were starting to open up. Good time for the car to come forward, give a bobble. I don't know, it looks okay, it looks okay.
I think he's trying to get some ice on board, the gel.
Just think back to the yellow jersey group as well. Carlos Rodriguez looked isolated to me. I know that Bernal had said goodbye to that group.
Yeah, I think for Rodriguez, he's just got to follow, you know. He's not going to be the rider that goes ballistic and starts going on the attack. He's always going to be that rider that follows, and if he sees the opportunity to go, he will go. As you see, these three riders getting as much, well, cooling, energy, drinks as possible. We've still got a long way to go.
And while they're doing this, Carapaz is on his way over, 21 seconds. If Vingegaard is losing men, so is Pogacar. This is getting interesting. Weaker and weaker. Pogacar still has them all, men, at the moment, but it's Sivakov, who did a great job yesterday, who's behind and dropped as they're on their way up now. It's certainly becoming a battle of attrition, isn't it, as teammates go overboard one by one. And this group is just thinned out further and further. It's Wilco Kelderman setting the pace and ejecting that teammate for Tadej Pogacar, right in his wheel. And Marc Soler further back, telltale sign. You wouldn't even have to see the colours or the face. You just see the style. You go, there's Adam Yates out of the saddle.
Yeah.
Almeida's still there. Sivakov is trying to hang on for as long as possible, though. Ciccone in that group. Carlos Verona for him. Looking ahead, Derek G is there as well, still in the group, and just being consistent, working his way as high up in the general classification as possible. Sits at the moment in 9th place at 9:33. Imagine the first attempt at that. The top 10 would be a sensational result for him.
Can you imagine how Carapaz is feeling right now? How gutted he's going to be. Tired, but also so frustrated. You know, he's probably got past that frustration, but there'll be a bit in the back of his head where if he bridges across to these guys, which he will, he'll take that morale from it, like, right, I've made it back, good job. But also, when he gets to the end of the stage, and if they're still away, and if he's able to do a ride, he'll be like, and he doesn't win, he will be so cross at that situation in terms of the work, the extra work he's had to do, you know. Riding at however much faster it is, 2, 3, 4 k's an hour quicker than the guys in that breakaway, that is a big effort.
And Sivakov finally having to let go despite fighting for a while. Beautiful block. Looks painful for those further down there.
Marc Soler is a solid rider, isn't he? Day in, day out, he can do this.
And what I've liked about how he's ridden in this Tour de France compared to other years we've seen him when he used to ride with the Movistar team, his discipline as a domestique, and it's just translating into really good performances for his team. Carapaz can now see them, Adam.
I was going to say there's some Red Bull in the extreme sport sponsor that they are just going on the grass, but not letting any of that draft as well, importantly, behind the car. We've seen a bit of wind, we can see on those flags there's no wind here, but further down the climb earlier, there was that sort of headwind, cross headwind, but where they are now, not there, but the Red Bull car moving firmly out of the way. The guy that would have told them to do that is that guy on the red there, on the motorbike in the red jacket. He's the regulator. He's the one that allows the motorbikes through, the cars at times to come through. He makes the decisions.
He's the one who'd be telling you off all next week, is he?
He'll put them on, yeah. I need to make friends with him very quickly.
Romo caught by the yellow jersey group, trying to hang on. Stephen Williams is still in this group, by the way, alongside Derek G to help him. And Evenepoel still having Mikel Landa. Already mentioned that Almeida. Adam Yates still there for UAE Emirates, alongside Soler. Carapaz, 13 seconds sprint, still got 3.2 k's to the top to close things here. Rommel now loses contact. He had been the highest place in the general classification for Movistar, 16th place before today. As Wilco Kelderman continues.
Just a couple more starting to struggle with that pace too. Harold Tejada of Astana, Kazakhstan, and Carlos Verona has just been doing an exceptional job. Just losing a few lengths at the moment, the Spaniard for Lidl Trek.
Oh, he's from the outskirts of Madrid originally, but he lives in Andorra nowadays, not too far from here. That's goodbye to Lenny Martinez. Tried his day on the French National Day in this debut Tour de France for him. And he is very quickly taken in by an ever-impressive Wilco Kelderman. Santiago Buitrago is one of the other riders in the general classification up there. Currently sits in 12th place and standing to gain quite a bit if he stays here.
He's been really coming on strong the last few days, and particularly good yesterday, Santi Buitrago. There's a few riders that are really starting to find their rhythm that you can see then when we talk about fatigue resistance, the riders who fit into that category, that they keep cruising along and they seem to be under the radar, but it's only now coming into the final week we really start to say their names a lot more.
Hello again. Carapaz rejoins the three amigos at the front. De Plus, Hindley, Mass, and now the Olympic champions here for EF Education Easy Post. 2.8 Ks to the top. So a while after they said goodbye, he is back, but how much has it taken out of him? What is going to happen here? They have 3:22 on the yellow jersey group. The next important rider is Johannesson at 53 seconds. It's between these four for now. Let's see how it plays out.
Well, here's an interesting proposition. If you were Richard Carapaz, Adam, and you might feel that you've been flicked by these riders when that group split and they really put the foot down to keep you at bay, get rid of you out of the group. You've ridden your way back across. Go over the top of this climb. There's a short descent, another climb, then a decent descent.
Yeah.
But what would your plan be from there? How, after making the effort you've had to make and feeling like you might be feeling about how they've done this, would you?
Would say Ben Healy's chasing, so I've got to sit on. It's a difficult one. I mean, on the climb, he's obviously got very, very good legs. He's obviously very capable. He's made up a minute in what, 8 kilometres? He's flying to be able to make that effort, and that's the second effort he's had to make doing that today. So I think backing himself, that he's just got to try and recover. Do as little as possible, do the smallest turn as possible, and just try to recover and get himself ready for that last climb, because all eyes are going to be on him a little bit, you know, and he doesn't know how these guys are feeling. I can imagine for these guys, they might feel quite demoralised if they're going full chat and they're trying hard and they look back and all of a sudden Carapaz has got back.
Yeah, he
oh,
came from what? Where? A minute? What?
Just behind Pavel Sivakov, who in turn is about 200 metres, give or take, behind the lead group containing his teammate Tadej Pogacar. He's fighting gamely to get back in contact, but he is one of many, many big riders to be dropped on this horrible climb. Getting a little bit cooler as we get towards the top, which they'll definitely be welcomed, but we've just got one of the race referees in front of us who's making sure that Pavel Sivakov gets no assistance whatsoever from the cars. Ineos car will go by, a former team he rode for, of course, that is holding us back a little bit, putting up that barrage. That is what his job is. He is a race regulator, making sure that anybody that's dropped has no real chance of getting back on unless it is under their own steam. Such a brutal sport. Back to the commentators.
Thank you very much, Matt. Well, those who've executed a pretty brutal move are just about to be retaken by the yellow jersey group. Bob Youngles and Matteo Sobrero.
So
3:18 still, Adam. Go on.
I was going to say, if Carapaz was able to dominate his pace on that climb, if he was still in that front group, that gap would have still been up around 5 minutes. So they started with 4 minutes pretty much on the nose at the bottom of that climb to the breakaway. Now it's gone down to 3:19, but Carapaz took a minute out. So if he was able to ride as he did, and he was in that front group, he'd have had about 4 minutes. When you look at 4 minutes compared to what they've got now, you'd give them a much bigger chance of being able to win that stage today rather than what it's like. And Carapaz, look, he's not hanging about, getting straight back into it, trying to keep that gap open. He knows that. He knows that he has to keep that gap as big as possible.
That was the next thing I was going to come to after we spoke about, you know, would you be inclined to work very much as Richard Carapaz?
and maybe not. You think I might want to recover. I'm going to sit on a bit, do a bit less than you guys. But then the impetus, I think, would go out of the group if you feel like you're giving Richard Carapaz a free ride once he's got across. And the other thing is they cannot afford to hang around. It needs to be an all-out effort from all four of them for anyone to have a realistic chance of winning the stage, because that gap at the moment for mine just isn't big enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. And just seeing Carapaz a minute ago there, full grit in his teeth, you know, he's had to try really hard there, you know. It's not like that effort is made as easy whatsoever.
It's a chance. Once they get over the top, sorry Rob, once they get over the top of this climb, short descent, another bit of climbing before the real descent, it's from there that I think there is a real opportunity for them to extend that gap once again, because we're quickly running out of domestiques in the group behind.
Yeah.
In terms of the speed of the race, by the way, 60 kilometres to go, we're above 38k per hour average. I'm just looking at my little chart here. I'm no Dan Lloyd when it comes to spreadsheets, by the way, but I've tried my best. We're 16% time cut at this speed. The speed is going to change, but we've got the green jersey group at 20 minutes. We're hearing that there's another group, including Mark Cavendish, a further 6 to 7 minutes back yet. Are there going to be riders worried about the time cut today? Because it's been a quite quick day for now.
I didn't even need to finish that sentence, Rob. I knew the answers.
Well, you've been there.
Worrying. I've been in this position and on almost this identical stage, and it is a very real threat for those riders who were dropped straight away out of the start. 7-kilometre climb from the get-go on a 197-kilometre stage through, what is it, 5 categories? I've lost count how many climbs we've got today. Six
but if you go a bit further down the mountain, 26 minutes back where that sprinter group is, Adam and I had a conversation about 20 minutes ago, and we said, well, there's still more than 2,500 metres of climbing to go yet. Those guys are in that position. They're not getting any closer to the front of the race, are they? Put it that way.
No, and they're likely to lose on that final climb. They'll go close to losing almost a minute per kilometre of that 15.8k climb to Plateau de Bay.
Easy to Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard if they decide.
If they go hard from the bottom, then it's going to end up being around that. It is just, it boggles the mind how quickly that they are elite riders who are going, okay, they're not climbers, but they're elite professional riders, and they still lose that amount of time per kilometre to the best of the GC contenders.
Right, that's when you look at it really, you think, what, Tadej Pogacar in 4 kilometres took 40 seconds out of Jonas Vingegaard yesterday, 10 seconds a kilometre, and then you think it's only another 50 seconds. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's only another 50 seconds. It's like click of a fingers, it's bonkers.
Producer Doug, on top of everything, reminding us that there are 5 categorised climbs today. 4 first cats, 1 core category, which is the final climb to the Plateau de Bay. You talked about a minute per kilometre. That climb is over 15 kilometres long, so over a quarter of an hour at the very least for those final groups you expect to ship on the top riders. Added to 26 minutes they had starting this climb, a bit more time lost here. They'll gain something on the descent, you'd think, Robbie?
You gain, or at least not lose any more. The time limit today is going to be, if it's 16%, it's going to be around the between 49 and 51 minutes.
It's going to be tight, very tight, if there's a group already at 26 minutes. We'll try our best to keep an eye on that. Of course, final confirmation, I'm sure, will come when you're watching the breakaway after the stage with Ola and the gang. Now then, keep your eye on this, because Richard Carapaz is possibly after the points here. He takes 2nd place, and the maximum points go to Laurens de Vos in the King of the Mountains competition. 3rd place in that shake-up goes to Emmerich Mas, and Jai Hindley not in that competition. He, of course, is looking, like they all are, for the stage win, but it looks as though the way his team's been riding, they have been fully committed on that front. For Carapaz, for a few days, I think now, we've seen that he's interested and in touch with the King of the Mountains competition.
He is, but without getting points where sometimes they were available. The Col de Monte, he tried. Next climb, the Porte d'Aspet, he just hung back in the group while Romo and Johannesson took the points. So he's sort of trying, but
sometimes not taking them when they're on offer. Can't make his mind up if he really wants to go for it or not. There's no decision to be made for Wilco Kelderman here. It is just ride. He's doing that very well. Gap has come down to 3:11. Maximum points, 10 points there, going, of course, to Richard Carapaz. You see that flag on the side of the road there, Adam? Lovely red Lancashire Road.
Didn't see it, Rob.
Didn't think you'd notice
No,
it. Here we
didn't see
go.
that,
We've
mate.
got bad news, by the way, further behind. In that group at 26 minutes, Gerben Thijssen has abandoned the Tour de France. Oh, that's the case of a pure sprinter just reaching the end of his tether. And his first Tour de France, for a guy like him, it was going to be a struggle to complete the Tour. Came in with big ambitions of sprinting stage victories. That sort of changed around him massively because of the prowess of Biniam Girmay. He's done well to get even this far, I think, Herbert Thijssen. But when you're done, you're done. This is the quartet at the front. Johannesson has come to it in 35 seconds, by the way, now. And this is Simon Yates with Ben Healy. They're at 2 minutes 18 and travelling backwards. And a half Ks to go in another big stage so far. We always knew the rhythm was going to be different today. The bigger gaps, the valleys. It was full gas frenetic yesterday. It started that way today with the Bayrochot. And here we have Guillaume Martin back in the GC group for now. Also back there is Jakob Fuglsang trying to lend a hand as much as he can to Derek G. Here we go. Vingegaard just moving up onto the wheel of his teammate there.
Safety on the descent. The riders really, you know, we've seen them all the time fighting for the front positions here. It's only seen Tadej Pogacar move up as well. Just as close to the front as possible. You don't want to get behind someone that's a little bit nervous. You want to be at the front of it, minimise the acceleration out of every corner. The further you are back in that line, the greater the acceleration. But these guys are not going to be absolutely full chat down here.
Darasans or Ariège is where we are. And where is Mark Cavendish? He's in a group of 10, I'm afraid, who for the time being find themselves not cut adrift, not yet anyway, but they're at 36 minutes and 52. It's just readjusted on the Tour's official race centre. There are 10 riders there. He has got 2 teammates with him, with Caseball and also Alexei Lutsenko. But the big fear today is that if they can lose 1 minute per kilometre, there's a 16-kilometre climb up the Plateau de Bay. We're not going to be that far away for our breakaway to get there. And then, 37 minutes now in arrears, Mark Cavendish and the crew will arrive. Now, I've got to tell you, the double dip, they've just gone over the Col d'Agnès. They are now climbing again, I'm afraid, to try and save the day for themselves up the non-categorised Port de l'Airs. Once they get over the top of that, they can start the descent that we have been well used to and have already seen. So they're a long way back, Sean, and at 37 minutes, if you add on the 16 that you think is possible to lose on the final climb, they're in trouble.
They are in trouble, and you know, when you look at the group of Mark Cavendish, 10 men, there's a lot of valley road, as we've seen here with our leaders. That is a difficult one. If you have 25 riders in that group, 30 riders in the Group Eto, as we call it, which is the group is totally behind, and they ride together, then you can conserve energy for the final climb. So it is going to be a real difficult one. And, you know, Plateau de Bay, it's a real steep gradient, and the distance as well. It is going to be a one where, you know, they're going to struggle big time, because they are going to start feeling the fatigue of having to ride with only 10 men. So it's it's a real scary one for that group of Mark Cavendish and the other men in that group.
There are occasions where the commissaires step in and stretch the rules just a little bit, scoop them back out of the pond, I think is the expression, or something similar to it. But the Plateau de Bay is going to take about, Jonathan, 45 minutes to climb for the best.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, one just to say here, because I feel like it's almost been put in a little bit of a negative context that Cav might not make it in today. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the fact that he's decided to fight on after breaking the record for winning stages, to me, that's already incredibly impressive. I mean, he could have just stopped the next day and said, hey, you know, I broke the record, I'm going to go home and celebrate. The fact that he really honors the race and honors the tradition of the race, I think speaks volumes of his character.
So Jorgensen getting a bike change, not really a convenient time for this to happen. Welcome back, everybody. Just going to see our map as Matthew Jorgensen just changes his bike momentarily. I wonder whether there's a gearing option or whether there was a technical fault. This is what we're dealing with. It's either red or black almost all the way up, as you can see. 9%, just around maxing at around about 9.5 in some points. However, on some of the hairpins that we've got plenty of them as we approach the ridge here. It does flatten out just a little bit. There may well be a whiff of a headwind on the final sector here, but really, Sean, there is no respite through the whole reach of this 16-kilometre climb.
No, it's all the way for the 16 kilometres. You know, it's red or black, and that just tells you the gradient. You know, it's very high gradients all the way, and yeah, it's just a monster, and it's going to be for everybody. The riders who are out in the front here, 2:45 of an advantage. The GC men, it's going to be a battle for them. It's also a battle for that riders are further back the road here and fighting to make it inside the time limit. So this is going to be a real difficult day for all.
It's a flat, high-paced section, as you can see, just for the time being. We're probably around, a couple of kilometres now to go until we have to get to our climb. The club racers trying to keep up. They usually last about 30 seconds. Meanwhile, the man in the polka dots today has his battle plan, Jonathan, to your mind, been a good one today for this Melissa bike to do much of the chase, much of the work.
Yeah, I'm not quite exactly sure, you know, what I mean, obviously they think, well, okay, we can take this to line, and we want to get the bonus seconds, and, you know, the only way to do that is make sure that the break doesn't survive. I'd be surprised if that strategy works, but they're basically trying to out UAE. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Sean, have they hurt themselves more than they're hurting Pogacar today?
Well, I don't think Pogacar's even in a little bit of trouble, but we won't know, you know, the truth on that one until we're into the last kilometers of the race. But, you know, I think for me, it's a little bit of a psychological move on Wiesner's part. Like, basically, they're saying, we're going to make the team ride all day long because we believe in you so much, Jonas, right? And even if maybe technically that doesn't stand much of a chance of working, the psychological boost could actually be very effective. Like, he's thinking, these guys have completely killed themselves for me all day long. I have to bring it home for them. And they believe in me so much, the management believes in me so much, I have to bring it home for them. So, in that respect, you know, could work.
Cicconi's been going strongly, Sean, over the last couple of days. He and Carlos Verona now just coming up and helping with a little bit of pacing.
Yes, well, he's having a real strong race here, and he's very much up in the GC. He's at 8th in the standings at just over the 9 minutes. So, you know, he is going to defend that place, and we always talk about the top 5, the top 10, and for Little Trek it will be an interesting one if he can maybe move up a bit in that classification or hold on to a place in the top 10. As we see Matt Jorgensen coming back here after the bike change.
No panic there, Sean.
Well, it's surprised that the team didn't just turn it off a little bit, because Kelderman keeps on riding on the front, and this man is trying to get back in here. Now, we haven't really seen, he's probably been in the cars and getting the drafting, so it's relatively easy for him to come back and get to the front here. But 240 at the moment, this is a one. And I don't think it's about the bonification to finish. It's all about on this final climb here of this 16 kilometres. And, you know, Vingegaard, is he going to be able to do the business here and take time from the yellow jersey, Tadej Pogacar? They must feel yes, and the tactic, the strategy going out must be just to make this race difficult and keep the pressure on all day, and that he will be able to do the business in the end. And we will see that now in this final climb here of 16 kilometres. But when you look at Pogacar yesterday, like, he was excellent, and you know, you would expect him to be in the same shape today. So, you know, you just have to look at the previous day and you say, okay, Vingegaard was in a little bit of trouble. Normally, you know, he's going to suffer a bit against the man he has to challenge Pogacar today, but it does change, and these big champions, they can have a little bit of an off day, then they can come back throwing heavyweight punches and you know, reverse the situation the following day, and that is going to be the interesting one. Can Vingegaard really take time back out of Pogacar on this monstrous climb to the finish?
Richard Carapaz just getting some much needed ice for the back of his neck before the climb begins.
And here we go.
Welcome back, everybody. We are about to enter one of the mightiest tests of this year's Tour de France. It is the Plateau de Bay, a huge climb in terms of its magnified importance, coming as it does at the end of 2 hard weeks of racing. A rest day tomorrow. It's time, if you're playing poker, I guess, to go all in. Well, those out front that have set themselves this task have an advantage of 2 minutes and 34 over a raft of GC contenders that are determined to test themselves against each other. In so doing, they may well close the gap on those who are up the road. Laurent de Plus, Jai Hindley, Richard Carapaz, Enric Mas, and latterly joining them, Tobias Johannesson, who's got back on the flat section, which, of course, the likes of Pogacar and Vingegaard are still enduring for now. If you want endurance, think about Mark Cavendish and a group of 10 riders who sit at 38 minutes down, and if they are, as predicted, possibly going to lose up to 16 minutes more just on the final climb today, which our head of our race is already engaged with, then that could spell disaster. Moving towards the time cut-off. Personally speaking, I think they'll just make it. I certainly hope they do. I have to say that Mark Cavendish has been a master of that in the past. He's got Alexei Litsenko pace ball as well to just help him drive it across the valley. They are still descending to get down to that valley position. So it's getting on for 40 minutes down. We'll keep an eye on that clock. I'm sure you will as well. Now, though, Sean, it's time to dig in. Enric Mas, he looked like he struggled yesterday. He's refound his mojo big time. He is in elevated company here, in an elevated position. What can he do?
Well, we will see now in the next 15.2 kilometres and who is going to be the best out of this group. But 2:26, I'm afraid for those guys that, you know, with this long climb, the steep gradient, no respite at all at any point during that 16 kilometres, it is going to be really difficult for those guys. And, you know, Enric Mas, we see him yesterday in difficulty, but that was in the group of the big favourites, and he knew, you know, he wasn't going to be up to the challenge there to take on those guys. In a breakaway, it's a different situation. When you look at the riders he's with, and when you look at the qualities of Enric Mas in the past, like, he's a super climber, but hasn't been performed as he would have liked to be in this tour and way down the GC. So now it's all about a stage win. If he can get a stage win, that will make up a lot for his disappointment in the general classification.
Look at those black sectors right at the very beginning of this climb. Of the first 5 kilometres, 4 of them are over 9%. It's a nightmare. Well, it'll be a dream scenario for somebody. This is, of course, the main chase coming in, detailed as the peloton, because there are riders all over these Pyrenean mountains. And Wilco Kelderman has done his fantastic job, and it is now at a close. Well, it's going pop for quite a few up here, Sean. The Jakob Fuglsang, nothing more for the day. Marc Soler has been a driving force for Tadej Pogacar. He's also suffering, I'm afraid. Ben Healy, almost the hero of the race so far. No wins for him just yet, despite all of his efforts. He's been in the service of Carapaz to slingshot him up the road. Others as well. Guillaume Martin just struggling here. Simon Yates, who had high hopes of being up towards the pointy end on a day such as this. In fact, from that particular group, he is still bouncing. 2 minutes and 1 now, and the clock is just absolutely tumbling as we start to pick it up, and Tadej Pogacar starts to just decide that maybe it's time for a show of strength. They've not been benign, Sean, but equally they've not been as aggressive as they have been, and of course he still has with him the master plan that is Adam Yates to deliver blows to the solar plexus like no other. Pogacar hanging on Jonas Vingegaard at the moment, and we're into the crowds, we're into the pointy end of this amazing day.
Yes, and we can see riders in difficulty. We can see Derek G there in difficulty already, and he's also, in the 9th position at just over 9 minutes down the GC certification. And this is going to, I think, catch anybody that are suffering at this point as you go further up the climb. It is going to cause a lot of problems for the GC men, and I feel we'll see some of the GC riders losing a lot of time here. The question is, we can see Matteo Jorgensen just pushing on here. It will be important how long he can keep it going, because we can see also Almeida there having difficulty. That just tells them UAE, they haven't contributed anything today, and that just shows how much this is after sapping the energy of everybody.
Matteo Jorgensen, I'm not quite sure, Jonathan Waters, whether that was a planned exchange of his bike. Did he have a technical, or did he change the gearing just for this?
No, I think that was just a technical, but man, is he an impressive rider.
Phenomenal.
I mean, he's one of the strongest riders in the race, but obviously he's not riding his own race. He's riding it, for Jonas. But from a team manager perspective, what he's doing has been pretty incredible. And today, even more so.
Well, Tadej Pogacar smashed the climbing record yesterday on our finale. Will records fall here as well? Big pickup by Jai Hindley, man who's, of course, dominated the Giro d'Italia in the past. Can he possibly spring something out of this? The man who chases onto his wheel is Tobias Johannesson. Something of a surprise after he was dropped a little bit earlier on in this race, got himself back in to this pointy end. Lawrence de Plus just grinds into this as well, almost TTing himself back up. Mas looking like he may be a bit second-hand. He displays his fatigue on his face very easily, but Richard Carapaz looks cool as you like just for the time being. You feel like there's potential here. Coiled spring time and here he goes. It is indeed. There is that potential writ large. He's gone, and Mas suddenly, from looking like he was on a torture rack, goes with him. It's the pair of them duking it out for a stage victory here. Can they possibly hold on? The gap's come down, tumbled as you will, to just 89 seconds, 13.6 kilometres from home. A nice rhythm to be set here by Richard Carapaz. He can attack, he can mess with people's heads, he can change his pace almost at will, it seems. He's got more gears in his head than he has on the bike, and he makes them work for him. That's the kind of attitude and the kind of capability, Sean, that can deliver on a day like today.
Yes, well, they had to deliver, and they had to deliver early on this time, plus 13 kilometres to go here, and they know that this gap is coming down 1:27 back to the yellow jersey, and that is the concern. You could see, they're looking around here, who's going to do the pulling on the front. We see Hindley just putting in a little bit of a tester there to see what the reaction will be. Then Carapaz goes first, and they're all concerned about the pace being set back in this group, as we can see more riders starting to lose ground here. Ciccone starting to lose. The GC men further down, Gal also from Decathlon, he's in difficulty, a brilliant climber, and that just tells Jorgensen. And we know, we've seen this year, Like this guy, he's a huge talent. He's at the service of his leader here, Vingegaard, and he's doing a powerful performance.
Yes, but when does Vingegaard go? That's the point. And looking behind, so we got Pogacar as well, almost on a tow rope between the pair of them. Adam Yates now just starts to bounce up into position. He'll be offering a back wheel before you know it to Tadej Pogacar. Tadej has a habit of leading his own team up mountains and then calling on them to service wherever he requires them. Let's see, minute and 26 only. Fabulous drive by Richard Carapaz. He's testing those out front, Jonathan.
Yeah, I would say the guys out front need to stop playing with each other a little bit and really, I mean, they've just got to hold like a very high rhythm. I mean, I love seeing Richard attack, and it looks very impressive when he does a big rhythm change like that. But if you really want to win, you kind of got to not worry about the other guys with you and just set a high, steady pace. That's the only chance these guys have. The more they mess around with each other, the less their chances are. So, even this, they keep looking back, and Moss just swung off. Like, this is garbage if you're trying to win the stage. It's just got to be steady, fast, and you kind of almost have to not worry about the other people in the breakaway at this point because the group behind is so tight.
One thing is they're testing each other out and they're spurring each other on as well, Sean. They're kind of reminding each other what is at stake today.
Well, and then you pull over and you hope the other rider will do the same for a bit. Although, the drafting and the advantage in the wheel is not great on a climb, but still mentally, when you've a rider or 2 or 3 riders in front of you, you feel that they're gaining something here. And with the advantage they have, starting into the climb, whatever it was, around a minute and 30, it's just so tight here. They have to, really get working together. But Jonathan, as he agrees, it's not like in our day where you make agreements with the riders to say, okay, we ride. It seems to be now, just a spur of the moment. Bang, I'll attack. Okay, another bang over the top, and that's the way they ride. And going back in this race as well, the team of Red Bull, they had a great opportunity. I think they blew it here.
12.4 kilometres before we are indeed at our finale. I was just about to say, don't regard any of these riders as lesser favoured, because when you get to a position such as this, at the end of the day, Sean, when you've given so much, it's almost like an evening out. You have to almost disregard the differences between the riders historically, because it's about the now, isn't it, and how you've preserved yourself up to this point.
Well, when you're in a position like this, if you have 4 or 5 minutes of advantage, then you can play around a bit and throw in these teasers to see who is going to react, and you will get a picture of who is feeling good, because they're the ones who will be onto your wheel immediately and start riding. But in this situation, yeah, it's a panic situation for the guys out in front, and they're hoping that there's a stalemate back in the group of favourites, but I don't think we will see that. And with 12 kilometres to go, it's just way too far for those guys. 1:14 at the moment, back to the yellow jersey. It ain't going to happen for them today for the breakaway.
Ciccone is thinking about his top 10. He's also thinking about the wheel of Felix Gall at the moment. He's absolutely locked on it, as you can see. Meanwhile, out front, in the chase, I should say, still very much a great job being done here by Matteo Jorgensen. He is phenomenal. Just behind him, Jonas Vingegaard nursing the polka dot jersey on behalf of Tadej Pogacar, who's still not mouth-breathing, apparently, Sean. He looks so relaxed in situations like this, and I have to say as well, Adam Yates is often hard to read. Looks like he is waiting to be spurred on as well.
Yes, well, Tadej, we know you cannot just take from his visual looks. You have to just test them, and we did see Pogacar, in this tour he was waving the camera and everything was fine, and then further up the next line he got into real difficulty. So you have to test him physically, and the question is, who's going to give the big sucker punch first here? Will it be the yellow jersey? Will it be Vingegaard? Remco Evenepoel, he could say, just, well, if he's in good shape and he feels that, okay, I'll try, and maybe they might mark each other a bit and he can take some time back in the GC standings, that is a possibility. But yeah, we can see here it's still Jorgensen just you know, pounding away on the front here, and in the meantime, the gap advantage to the leaders is coming down.
You know, Remco Evenepoel, whenever he has a bad day, he bounces back usually. The bad day by his own extraordinarily high standards. Remember in the Welter last year where he had an awful day, and then the next day comes back and wins with a phenomenal solo. He's got Nicolanda with him as well. I was just wondering what indeed Remco can do. He actually looks at the moment like he is just, his mind is up the road, which means he's minded to do something very well. He could be indeed that hidden card here. Well, straight out and on the deck, starting to play the game. Enric Mas, he goes. Johannesson comes with him. 11.5 kilometres to go, and Richard Carapaz, no response from him just for the time being. Have they got the drive to get back over there? Sitting on the back wheel of Lawrence de Plus just for now. Jai Hindley is part of that chasing trio. It's a duo up the road. Any fears, Jonathan?
No, I mean I would be more upset if I didn't think that this group from behind is going to take them back. I think, you know, Richard, this is the point in the race where he is now paying for that effort where he had to bridge across earlier. It's not an immediate effect. It kind of just catches up with you slowly, and now we can see it's catching up with him.
Dylan Ortis, team principal of EF Education Easy Post. Fabulous to have him along, of course, especially because Richard Carapaz has been, and indeed Healy have been such a fabulous part of this day. And here we go, kicking on and said, see ya, I'm out of here. Makes you wonder about that deficit that was left behind when the big breakaway group fractured. And of course, Richard Carapaz had to bridge over all by himself. Meanwhile, it's going to be a trio up front. He is, and it's got, what, 57 seconds, Sean, back to the Mayo Jeune. It's only a minute. We've got 11 kilometres to go. The benchmark is that you give a minute per 10 kilometres. It's under that right now. Surely the stage win may well come from behind.
Well, it looks, you know, it's going to come from behind unless they really start playing around behind. When Jorgensen finishes up his effort on the front here, who's going to take up the pace setting out of this group? That is the question, as we can see. But go and also in difficulty here. And just slowly, we're losing all these real talented climbers. We can see Rodriguez getting into a little bit of difficulty as well, losing a bit of ground here. And that tells the pace that's been set by Matteo Jorgensen. It is a real leg breaker for, you know, excellent climbers, proven 3-week riders. He's doing an excellent job here. But yeah, up front, they're still starting, you know, to continue on to attack each other. But I'm afraid it's not going to happen. It's going to come out of this group, the stage winner here today. And it'll be interesting now to see how long more this man can continue on setting this infernal pace.
Well, we're waiting for Jonas to give him the moment, the sign that his job is now at an end. For the time being, he's still asking huge questions. The man is asking questions of himself here. It's Richard Carapaz, and he's decided the best way to help is to help yourself, and that's precisely what he's doing. Leaving behind Tadej Johannesson, who instigated this latest move, followed by Enric Mas, but now Richard Carapaz is making a noise up front, and Jonathan Wouters, this must be a joy to you. I hope he, as a neutral, that he manages to hold on here.
Well, I think he's heard what Sean and I have been saying, and he's basically calling us out on the bluff, saying, you know, that I'm going to hold this 41-second gap all the way.
Jonas comes round, Johannesson's done his job, and Tadej Pogacar goes, and we're looking at Remco Evenepoel. Can he possibly hold on here? Alan Yates can't come and join the party. He's been there just in case. But quite frankly, the suitcase is now full. It's these two, and they have headed off up the road. This was the big battle plan by Jonas Vingegaard. It's been on our screens all day. Burn everybody down and hope that you don't burn yourself. And right now, goodness me, Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogacar, it's them again, Sean, mano a mano with Evenepoel just trying his best to hold on to their coattails. They've flown the coop here.
Yes, and not surprising because the day they've been through, the pace being set by Jorgensen, we did see that there was a lot of riders getting into difficulty, and when this man attacks, of course, then it's going to cause big problems, and the only one able to follow Vingegaard is Pogacar. We can see Remco Evenepoel there just doing his thing, setting his pace there, not trying to follow immediately and get into his rhythm. And it's going to be an interesting one. The man here in the polka dot jersey, will he be able to put this man in difficulty? We can see the way Pogacar is spinning the gears. Doesn't look like he's in difficulty at all, but you have to try.
Doesn't look like he's in difficulty at all. Takes a bottle. This will just be for cooling down, I imagine. Here we go. That's exactly right. The look over his shoulder over to the left was to see the camera bike. And to my mind, it was whether or not to take advantage of it as it was sailing by. There is Remco Evenepoel. He has not given up the ghost just yet. We still have some very steep sections to take, we remind you. And in fact, the next one comes with about 6.5 to 7 kilometres to go. So those who are up ahead of him by only a margin of 16 seconds, well, I think it is going to be this pair that hits that steep section first, and then you just watch. It's going to be a duke out between the pair of them, Sean. This is going to be a mighty sprint that I think everyone was hoping for.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be a sprint because Pogacar is getting, the easier ride here. Jonas has to continue on setting this pace, and he is hoping that he will put the yellow jersey in difficulty. For the moment, it doesn't look like that, but you just never know, and you have to continue on with your strategy, and that's what he's doing at the moment. But this is a long, long way. It's 10 kilometres out exactly when Jonas had to go in the attack. That's where you need good teammates, and we did see yesterday with UAE, they used the team to a point where Yates went up the road, and then Pogacar jumps across them and uses all his teammates to maximum. This is a big, big ask for Jonas Vingegaard to put this yellow jersey in difficulty.
Tobias Johannesson within their sights right now, and then only a matter of a couple of seconds or so, or a handful. There we are, as you see it, they come into view. Richard Carapaz and Enric Mas. And it is Jonas Vingegaard sporting the polka dots today on behalf of Tadej Pogacar, just comes round. And the exhausted Tobias Johannesson just unable to cede that position quickly enough for Pogacar's liking. He goes through, and Vingegaard spears up through the centre, an undiminished pace, and it's only Richard Carapaz who can stay with them by the looks of things. Is Mas going to be able to hold on here as well with 9.3 to go? Evenepoel is at a 9-second margin, so still doggedly pursuing them. And there's the cooling duties. That's what the Soigneurs are on here. Just handing out bottles. So get out of my way, says Richard Carapaz, turning Bidon into water pistol just to clear the road here. And clear minds are what you're going to need now, Sean, with the pair of them out and ready to pounce here on each other.
So the flat of the bay actually flattens out a little bit here, and it's I got to take off here in a second, but damn, Richie, good job being able to hold the wheel of those two after you've been out front all day long. Like I don't know how long it'll last, but he definitely gets an extra scoop of ice cream tonight.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonas Vortis, genius at work. He's the man whose battle plans have been writ large upon our screens many, many times. You'll be finding him in the breakaway with Orla shortly. Thank you, Jonathan. Meanwhile, back to this, our pleasure entirely. 8.9 kilometres from home, and it is starting, as always, Sean, to be graded. And what marks, indeed, are these guys making on each other, for goodness sake?
Well, there are two big challengers to win this race, and that's what we're expecting on the big days. They were going to be at the front of the race.
And here they are. Sean, we've seen this scenario so many times. It almost seems if it's going to be a finish, it's usually the pair of them. I don't know who's going to win today.
Well, it's an interesting one. We can see that Vingegaard, he's just set on pushing on this pace a long ways out from the finish at 10 kilometres to go on this very difficult climb. We know that Vingegaard, he likes the long climbs and just set that infernal pace, and that's what he's trying to do here. But really put Pogacar in difficulty. It will take a number of kilometres more, and there is a lot more. 8.5 still to go, so we will wait and see. And looking at Pogacar here, he looks quite comfortable, but again, he's the rider. He has that style. He just sits in the saddle when he's not really going for it, and he just turns the pedals. But he can get in difficulty. We've seen that before. It looks like he's okay, but then suddenly he does have to show weaknesses. Will he show that today? The next 8.3 kilometres will be the test.
Well, two riders like this, Vingegaard and Pogacar, come along once in a lifetime, and I'm sure that Remco Evenepoel is thinking, why did it have to be in my lifetime? They are here. They have distanced the young man who leads the young riders competition. And Vingegaard still looks nice and smooth, I must admit. Very hard to read in all circumstances. But right now, it's a big old book of results that they are writing here. Tadej Pogacar looks more pensive than I've seen him for a while, Sean. This is going to be fascinating. The terrain, you would think, better suited Pogacar yesterday, and sure enough, he had the beating of Vingegaard. A little bit more explosive by nature would have suited you yesterday. What about today? Well, we looked at the parcours, we thought, well, it's got Vingegaard at his best written all over it. And Carapaz is still doggedly determined to make it home, at least on the day's podium here. And Remco Evenepoel is going to just grab his wheel in a few moments' time. What a battle, Sean.
Yes, well, we were always forecasting a battle on this stage. When you look at the amount of metres climbing they had today, or around the 5,000, and a long stage as well. At this point in the race, it was always going to be the test of the big champions and the challengers to win this race and in the GC standing, and that's what we're seeing on the road at the moment. You know, the two main of this race that were going to come head to head on these real difficult days, they're out in front battling here, and this man, you know, Evenepoel, he's battling really well here, 26 seconds at the moment. Carlos Rodriguez at 1:23. Everybody is just giving their all here in this final 7.6 kilometres, and this man here, the defending champion, is trying to put the yellow jersey in difficulty, and he's just continuing on. And you know, we did say about this climb, the longer climbs, that's where Vingegaard seems to come into his best. And will he be able to do that today? Will he be able to distance this man? That we still have a lot of road to do with 7.5 kilometres on a climb of this gradient. You know, it is a big challenge all the time out ahead of them.
Well, I love the fans and I love their enthusiasm. Our prayer always is that they don't interfere with the race. Saw a little bit of that yesterday. Thankfully, a little bit more respect. They've been warned, indeed, by the security services here, just to give some space, and please, whatever you do, don't touch the riders. The gentleman who tried to cross that line yesterday spent the night in the cells and will be charged. 7.3 kilometres from home. They're absolutely locked together, Sean, but every time we go through some of the curves, it seems to be Vingegaard that's smoothest through them at the moment. I don't know whether I'm overreading it. We're going to find out, I guess.
Well, we will find out, and you know, 7+ kilometres to go here. We could see an attack from the yellow jersey Pogacar, because he's getting, you know, the easier rise. Also, when you're sitting behind the rider, you know, it gives you that mentality of sitting behind the rider for a long time. You're gaining advantage, although on the climb it doesn't help as much as on the flat. So we will have to wait and see, and I can't see, you know, who is the smoothest here. I can't take anything from, you know, the pedaling side of the two riders here on our screens at the moment. It will be really when the attacks come, and will they be an attack? Will Pogacar, you know, just sit on Vingegaard right to the finish and just take the stage win and the bonus that are available? I doubt that. I think he will try something, because, you know, he knows this man is going to dig deep, and it depends on how good Vingegaard is today. If he can continue on setting this infernal pace, well, then he might have the yellow jersey suffering at this moment.
We shall see. Pogacar's first win, he finished in front of Remco Evenepoel, don't forget, the Valois. The downhill run took lots and lots of risks. Vingegaard just kept himself honest. We felt that he's had to work his way into this race, coming back as he does from horrendous injuries suffered in the Basque Country. A remarkable, compressed approach to this race, where he has done everything to be in this position, and the hope was that he could grow into the race, and he's certainly done that. Victorious, of course, on stage 11 as he was, levelling up the scores in terms of stage wins. Yesterday, Pogacar beat the field, but the nearest man to him, of course, was Jonas Vingegaard, and here they are again, going head-to-head with 6.4 kilometres to go on this 9% section. It's the last tough section that they'll have to deal with. It eases, but only down to 8% or so. They're at 10 at the moment. They're at maximum, Sean, as well, against each other here.
Yes, well, who is at the most max at the moment? That is the question now, and we will see as we go through 6.3 to go. We see on the mountain here, we can see Landa, who is just pushing on. He's ahead of Rodriguez, so that battle is also further down the mountain here for the GC, because Landa, of course, he's just very close, a place behind Carlos Rodriguez of the Ineos Grenadiers team, and that's what's going on to this mountain. The battle for the places in the GC is also continue further back the road, but the big battle is here between the two big favourites to win this race outfit.
Well, the megaphones have been through, warning the crowds in multiple languages to behave themselves, and the security bikes, as you can see, are just persuading the fans to give them plenty of room, and that's precisely what we're getting. 13% we hit on this last. Here we go, Sean. This is the open plateau that we will reach just beyond the tree line, where indeed there are a whole raft of more fans, and of course, crucially, the finish line is today. What a day.
Yes, well, we can see here for the moment the fans, the big numbers on the roadside, but lots of room. But as we get further up, we might see that funneling effect. And yeah, for two riders out in front is not a problem. Let's hope we don't see any more problems that we've been having this race and in other races as well. But yeah, it's a man against man battle here, and we're inside the final 6 kilometres, but there's a lot of difficult terrain, very steep gradients to come, and yeah, Vingegaard continue on to work on it and see can he put this man in difficulty. And yeah, you ask yourself the question of the Visma Lisa bike, if they had somebody to set the pace in the earlier part of the climb, it would be an advantage to Vingegaard, not having to ride 10 kilometres on the final mountain on the front. But he's got to do it, and that is the strategy, that the tactic he set out with today. Made the race very difficult with the team all day, and now he has to just got to do it and continue all the way to the finish.
Remco Evenepoel, he's going to have Mikkel Landa with him, I think, within a short while. Landa has just extricated himself from Tobias Johannesson, and he's setting off possibly to be a little bit of a life raft for Remco Evenepoel. He's also very well placed himself, Mikkel Landa, within the top 10. He's started the day 7 minutes and 17 down, and so there is plenty for him to battle uniquely. But he's been a great servant as Mikkel Landa for Remco Evenepoel in the high ground, and today he is going to be required. Meanwhile, this pair, they're looking at each other, and it looks like Jonas Vingegaard is asking for a turn here, Sean. Is that a towel? Here we go. Oh, maybe it was. And the story is that Tadej Pogacar sees that requirement, sees that request for help, and he's decided to help himself. 5.3 kilometres to go. Rounds his man on the inside, the opposite side that he looked, and this looks magnificent. Is this finally the pivotal point of this Tour de France, where Tadej Pogacar, as he has done before, as he did in the Giro d'Italia, simply takes control?
Yes, well, it was a question of, how long was he going to stay in the wheel of Jonas Vingegaard, setting that pace? Was he in difficulty a bit? Not at all. We can see the yellow jersey. He hits here with just 5.3 to go, and there was the question of Vingegaard. He had to just dig deep here and try and limit the loss to the yellow jersey. I'm trying to get back to him. We can see here he's walking away as we go through. Still 5 kilometres to go.
Goodness me. Well, still 5 kilometres to go. It picks up again after this this momentary little easement in the percentages, but they're going to kick back up again. We hit 13% a few moments ago. It's already 60 metres short, 62. It's hovering around that margin. Vingegaard is battling all the way. Remco Evenepoel just to be met, should be met by Mikkel Landa, I think, out there. This was the moment, Sean.
Yes, this is the moment that we can see Vingegaard. He just looks at him, but wasn't able to respond to that kick from Pogacar. And we know Pogacar, he's very explosive, so we'll have to wait and see for Vingegaard. If he gets into the lead in 60 metres, you just can see him dangling out there in front of you. But, will he be able to hold it at that? Will he be able to close down in this final 4.7 to go? You can see here this man is into a rhythm here, and he's looking good. But Vingegaard also, he is, a big fighter, and we have seen that in the past, the way he can get back into his rhythm. It all depends on, how much energy those guys have left. And it's all about how much you have in the tank here. And we can see here the gap is going out 13 seconds at the moment. It's just going in the wrong direction for this man, Jonas Vingegaard.
13 seconds it holds at. How emphatic does Tadej Pogacar want to make the day? Well, he's got a rest day tomorrow. He can afford, metaphorically, to go all in at this moment. Here's Evenepoel, minute and a half down with Mikel Landa now, I'm afraid, not making inroads to help with the drive, but I think Evenepoel will be reasonably happy with his position in third on the road at the moment. Things go to 18 seconds down, 19 seconds. With every pedal stroke, it seems Tadej Pogacar is putting his stamp of authority on this race, Sean.
Yes, he certainly is, and we can see he's throwing out quite quickly, 21 seconds, and yeah, it looks like he's going to take a lot more time out of the defending champion Vingegaard. It'll be interesting to see as we go to 4.2 kilometres to go at the finish. It's going to be big advantage to the yellow jersey. How much that will be, it will depend on how Vingegaard can dig deep here and try and limit the losses. You know, it's not race over, but still, second day in a row, the yellow jersey has just proven that he is the better one on those real difficult climbs, and you know, that is the big morale boost as well. Time-wise, of course, it's the huge thing, but for the morale as well, and for the yellow jersey, Pogacar, this is going to be, you know, a real advantage, and for the man who is defending here, this is going to be a bit of a morale boost again on, you know, another difficult day here in the Pyrenees.
Well, rather coolly, that time gap seems to be bouncing between 18 and 23 at the moment, but I think it is widening still. And here we go, 24 seconds now with 3.7 kilometres to go. A little flat section here, lull you into a false sense of security, and then we'll kick round and we'll head out. We're just beyond the tree line now, Sean. He's into the wild blue yonder.
Yes, well, he's into the zone now. It's just all about keep your focus. You know, give it your all here and try and put as much into the man he needs to, who is chasing him on the road here. Gain as much time as possible, because you know, when you're in this situation, that's what you've got to do here. And yeah, we can see here the way the yellow jersey Pogacar, he's just, you know, flying up this mountain, and 8%. You know, he is going at a real fast rate, and not surprising, the gap is growing out back to Vingegaard, 26 seconds at the moment. When you look at the day and you look at Visma, tactic-wise, and it's easy to talk in hindsight, but should you have, you know, maybe waited off for a bit later, because the breakaway, going ahead and winning the stage, that doesn't matter. It's all about on the final mountain doing the damage and use your teammates a bit better. And Jorgensen, and we see Kelderman. Kelderman had to ride a long, long way, far too close out to the finish. You could have used him in the beginning of the climb, then have Jorgensen to set the pace for the first number of kilometres and take Vingegaard to maybe 5 kilometres to go, and then maybe try and do something. But yeah, this was always a big gap. And Vingegaard, this is going to be a long, long way to do the damage with this man's sitting in his group.
It may well have been not by design, Sean. It was the only thing that they had a reaction. And they wanted to make a statement as well, I think, to hit back after the team dominance that was seen in Yuri Team Emirates. This Melissa bike wanted basically to do the same, I think. Punch and counter punch, for goodness sake. But it just did not work for them. I think the element that was missing was probably Sepp Kuss, a man who fell ill, I'm afraid, during the Dauphiné. Vingegaard himself said, of course, we miss him, but we've got a great team around me. Well, that team today, Sean, I'm afraid, have just been burnt themselves down in the service of this man and for our entertainment. It's been glorious. But, as you say, maybe if they'd let the breakaway go, as you say in hindsight as well, you just never know. If it had worked, we'd be singing this gloriously from the treetops, which we're now leaving behind.
Yes, well, if we had a different tactic, a different strategy from Visma Lisa bike here, and just sit back, leave the breakaway, go away, because, you know, the men in the breakaway in the GC, there were no danger whatsoever, and, you know, keep your men in reserve for the final, and that means, you know, maybe 60, 70 kilometres out. Start using the riders that we see much earlier in the day, like of Benoot, like of Sacknick, Van Aert, all of those guys. And then in the final, use the better timers and try and take their leader further up this final climb, and then see can you do the damage in the final 5 or 6 kilometres. But Vingegaard had to take it up so early. It was always going to be a difficult one against this man. When you look at the way he was riding yesterday, but they had it plan to put in action here today, and they went out and done it, but it hasn't worked out for them, and they just want to lose more time, as you see. 37 seconds to this man.
The air fatigue goes off. They are indeed, the crowd, hyper animated, and well as they might be. They're seeing a man here in Tadej Pogacar with a 36-second margin for the time being over Jonas Vingegaard. He's put over 2 minutes already into Remco Evenepoel, himself a fantastic rider. And indeed, the rest of everybody else has been put to the sword by Tadej Pogacar. He's in the mood, Sean.
Well, he's in the mood, and he has to be in the mood. This is the D-Day, as yesterday was also the days when you have to be able to produce the full performance. The terrain presents itself, and my God, the terrain has, tested everybody here today after a very difficult day yesterday. And it's this man who is, standing up to it and, taking the race, in his fists and just grabbing the opportunity here and, making bigger advantage back to the man who was chasing and Vingegaard here, going out to 40 seconds at the moment.
And these are his people. Fabulous. Well, King of the Hill. The man wearing the King of the Mountains sits at 42 seconds. Remco Evenepoel at 2 minutes and 10. Michael Zander, nearest man to Evenepoel, is at 3 minutes and 5. And in betting parlance, the horse racing parlance, it's bar those. My goodness, what a bar. Sean, he's raised it again.
Yes, well, he is proven to be the best man of the two big challengers here, and you can see he's just putting out the advantage to this man, and it looks like it's going to be a huge time loss.
Well, good news for Mark Cavendish and all fans of those who are suffering today. They have just completed the climb to add 16 minutes to the Mark Cavendish. I think we'll get back to that in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, this man is bringing it all home here. At 45 seconds, 3/4 of a minute down. That is a wound that's almost too much for them.
It is going to be a big one, considering that Vingegaard started out this morning in the GC at 1:57. It's going to be another thing that leads here for the man defending the champion here. And you can see Vingegaard, he is suffering, and he's just going to try and get into the finish here in the final 1,200 metres, 1,100 metres as quickly as possible. But the time loss is going to be a big one here, and looking at the earlier part of the day, we were wondering, Visma Lisa Boyd, the way they were controlling the race, the way they were making it difficult, was the defending champion be able to pull something else to the bag, but it hasn't been the case against this man. He is still the dominant man of the day on this real difficult stage here in the Pyrenees.
Let me just tell you, Mark Cavendish, Roberto, at 36 minutes down. If it takes them, if they lose another 16 minutes on the climb, it'll put them at 51 minutes. That is very touch and go. Meanwhile, let us dwell on this man. He is now up amongst the blue sky here, and more than that, he has taken flight. This day, a difficult day. Some say the most difficult of this entire Tour de France. It's self-billed as one of the most difficult in memory. Well, yesterday was an uphill finish, an amazing one to Saint-Lary. Pogacar took that ahead of Jonas Vingegaard. He's going to take this ahead of the very same man. 1, 2, possibly 1, 2, 3 today, exactly the same as it was yesterday. But the margins are absolutely enormous. And you can give margin none of that to this man. He is phenomenal. You can't cut him any slack because he will just cut you down. Today, it was a magnificent effort by Jonas Vingegaard and this Melissa bike to try and put him to the test. He passed it with flying colours. He will be wearing a gold stage medal. And of course, he'll be turning yellow to gold in this most amazing piece of climbing alchemy. He is in charge of this race. Tadej Pogacar, has he just won the Tour? No, but he's taken a massive step towards doing precisely that. He's going to bring this home like it is his home. He owns the place, for goodness sake. Any pick, any time. It's mine. Wow. And the clock counts back, Sean, to Jonas Vingegaard, as brave as you like. A brave strategy today as well. His entire team were lined out for him, but the line had already been drawn in the sand by Tadej Pogacar, and he just couldn't step over it in the end, and we're going to find out by what margin he failed to do so.
Yes, well, it is going to be an enormous margin, and yeah, we can see this man again, another monster performance on this final line. He did it yesterday. He took 39 seconds out of being go yesterday in a 10-kilometre climb. Today, of course, just a 16-kilometre climb. It is going to be over the minute here, and this man, he is after having a real difficult one to try to limit the losses here, and the losses are going to be big.
Absolutely enormous. Well, you saw him there just a few moments ago, Sean. Fatigue washing over him, just took a waddle towards the barriers. Thankfully, just managed to hold on to the bars, and here it is, absolutely as you predicted. It's over a minute, for goodness sake. Let's see the margin. 1 minute and 8, Sean. What a huge gap.
Yes, it is a huge one, but this man, he is that sort of rider. When he's on his top shape, the performance he can do on a final mountain, we see it already in the Giro this year. Again today, an exhibition against real top riders like Vingegaard, but he won the battle big time today.
What a remarkable time to be a cycling fan. Just to witness this greatness laid bare before us constantly. Day after day they do battle for our entertainment, and we thank them for it. Remco Evenepoel coming home, Sean, as brave a rider as you could find. And today, at the beginning of the day, he said just to be close to Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard when they're on this kind of form is a privilege. And it's a privilege to watch him as well, doggedly determined to make sure he's on that overall podium. And he's hereby right our young riders classification leader.
Yes, well, he is riding an excellent Tour de France, of course. His first Tour de France. He's a young rider. He's here, to try and do the best performance and gain experience as well. But what a performance he's putting up here, because again yesterday, same situation. He was the third man to finish at 1 minute and 10. Today he's going to lose over 2.5 minutes here, but still an excellent performance. And he is going to keep his place on the podium there. And I think that's what he's talking about this morning, to defend that, and he's defended real well.
There is an awful lot of racing still to be done, but I think our podium is before us now, as if there were any doubt, even at the start of today. Great respect between Vingegaard and Pogacar, just trying to exchange a pleasantry between the pair of them. Ultimate respect, but the best of enemies, Sean, when they're out on the mountain.
Well, I think we always see that after the finish. They congratulate each other, but when they're on the mountain, like, it's the battle, and you just give it your all in the battle. And that's what it's about. Bike racing, you have a lot of very good friends, but when you're out on the road there's no cadeaux.
Mikel Landa coming in, a man who, of course, had his own ambitions, now has fallen into the service of Remco Evenepoel and has refound himself, I think, when it comes to the high ground. Often in the past accused of shoulders dropping just a little bit when things didn't go his way. Well, it seems perhaps with principal status taken away, he has suddenly thrived. It's wonderful to see. You don't always have to be a team leader to be a great rider. Gustav Seppkus, of course, notably absent from this race.
Well, it's an interesting one with Landa there, because he was 6th in the general classification. Rodriguez is still down the mountain here, and as we can see, Almeida coming in, he was ahead of him also. So this is going to be a one for Landa. He is going to make inroads into that general classification, where he's sitting at 6th at the moment.
What a day, and what a story, a series of stories to tell. Sean, it's about the top 10 now as well, behind the glory of Tadej Pogacar, who has at least got one hand, I think, on the remainder of this race. The margin is so big. Could Tadej Pogacar now just think about going defensive? It's not really in his nature, is it?
Well, he has the advantage now to go defensive, and we did see today it was a bit like that as well. The team, as we can see, Yates coming in there at almost 5 minutes, and Rodriguez coming in with Butrago here over 5 minutes, and that just tells you 5 kilometres, 5:07 for Carlos Rodriguez. That is a huge loss, because on this final mountain of 10 kilometres, this man who put up a great battle in the breakaway. But yeah, it just tells the quality of the performance of Pogacar and the rest that finished ahead here. To take 5 minutes out of some of those guys who are brilliant climbers, this is a monster performance by the men who are fighting to win the race.
Richard Carapaz comes home, and we say chapeau, sir. What a doggedly determined day it was for him, and indeed all of the Gear Education Easy Post team. We had the pleasure of Jonathan Walters with us today as well, giving us some great insight into the team and the psyche of the likes of Carapaz, and of course the great Ben Healy. Oh my goodness, what an incredible day. And what an incredible rider. Tadej Pogacar. He hasn't won it, Sean, but he's moved very close to it.
Well, he's taken over a minute again, and he set out this morning in the GC standings. Vingegaard was at that 1:57, so over 3 minutes. It is a big advantage, but in a race of 3 weeks, things can change very quickly. There's always the problem, staying safe, sickness as well, and we know on this tour it's pretty prominent, so all of that has to be considered. But time-wise, it is a comfortable one. When you look at the team he's got around him also, really solid.
Tadej Pogacar takes it 1:08. Yes, that's right, 1:08 over Jonas Vingegaard. Remco Evenepoel 2 minutes and 51. Mikkel Landa at 3 minutes and 54. Almeida, fifth home at 4 minutes and 43.
For this edition of the Esports World Cup, history is being made. There'll be 8 weeks of competition in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
It's amazing.
A highly competitive lineup in this tournament, featuring the world's best teams.
It's very impressive. This is Esports World Cup.
22 competitions spread across the 21 most played games in esports.
Esports World Cup.
22 winners, but only one cup champion.
This is Esports World Cup.
The Esports World Cup is the first time in the history of the sport that brings together all the best games, which brings together all the best players, which are part of the best clubs, who then compete to become the Esports World Cup club champion.
Welcome to the Esports World Cup. Get ready for 8 action-packed weeks of competition featuring the world's leading games, where the world's top esports clubs enable 1,500